Hey everyone, how's it going? This is part 2. I made a compilation, so in the description you'll find where part 1 ends and part 2 begins. Hope you enjoy it. The story begins with strange things falling from the sky. Along with that came some very peculiar objects from another world. And on the same night, everyone gained superpowers. The world turned into chaos, ruled by the new powerful beings. And in the middle of all that mess was Han, our beloved protagonist. He was just a regular guy who dreamed of a life full of waifus, just like you. But no one expected that. Along with the items, mysterious women would also appear. No one knew where they came from, but they all had the same goal, to capture our protag, for some unknown reason. But to him, that didn't matter. What really mattered was that, if one of them happened to knock on his door, they better be ready, if you know what I mean. He always wanted female attention, so he wasn't going to waste this chance. Han actually hoped they would keep showing up, because to him, that's how he would save the world and fulfill his nerd dream of having several waifus and forming a harem. Meanwhile, a strange game called Post-Apocalyptic started trending on the internet. Overnight, the game became a craze among gamers. Everyone was addicted, but no one knew who created it. It seemed to come out of nowhere, like magic. Han, of course, didn't care about any of that. He just wanted to play and relax, drinking his soda and cuddling with his waifus. But that was just in his dream. Experts warned that the game could be dangerous, with no control or supervision. It sounded like one of those news reports on TV telling parents not to let their kids play video games. They said it might be a scam and told everyone to uninstall it. But Han didn't care about those warnings. He just wanted to enjoy the moment. Even tired, he couldn't sleep, because out of nowhere, he heard someone calling him. When he opened his eyes, he saw a beautiful girl sitting on top of him. The girl smiled, saying she would take care of everything. Our hero thought he was dreaming, of course, right? But then he felt a strange pain, like a carnivorous plant had bitten him. Scared, the big guy raised his hands and realized he was touching something unusual. Only then did he notice what was happening on his lap. Even though it was something he always wanted, our hero panicked and pushed the girl away. Of course, right? He even asked who she was, not understanding anything. The girl apologized and said she had to interrupt the fun. She explained that she was there to shoot an addict from a shady financial group, and she also apologized for touching his body without permission. Han was confused, not understanding a single word she was saying. But before they could keep talking, something outside the window caught their attention. A huge werewolf, immune to everything, suddenly invaded the room. However, there was no time to react before it was swallowed by an explosion of fire. Han just stood there, unsure if he should say thanks or run away in panic. The girl, whose name was Ren, appeared through the smoke. She said that as long as she was there, no one could touch her big guy. Through the hole Ren made in the wall, it was clear that more werewolves were approaching. Without hesitation, the girl jumped out the window to face the beasts. Before disappearing, she said she would return as soon as she finished the job. Downstairs, an insane fight full of powers began. Meanwhile, Han finally had a moment to breathe and try to understand everything that was happening. That's when a TV turned on by itself, showing a cute face saying she never imagined the game would cross into another dimension. This supposed developer claimed things were going to get even more intense and asked if Han was ready. Without thinking much, he grabbed a chair and tried to smash the TV, but the device dodged and introduced itself, saying its name was wholesome. She was the most powerful system ever made. She also said the game was just training, and she had only used a small part of her power to create it all. Our hero, of course, asked if everything happening out there was her fault, and wholesome confirmed it, saying just playing on a phone was too boring, so she decided to unlock the real potential of her system. After 10,086 attempts, the system managed to break the dimensional wall and connect both worlds. Han then tried to understand, right? Why was he the target of all this? Wang explained that, when it came time to choose the game's avatar, she found Han's picture on the internet. So because of that, all the game characters thought he was the savior. Since our hero couldn't enter the game world, the characters started coming to him. They want to get Han's seed and create a savior for the other world. If you know what that seed really means, right? Han got emotional with tears in his eyes and asked how often these girls would show up. Wang said that suddenly, several girls could appear, and wasting no time, Han started warming up for dual cultivation practice. But the system killed the mood and warned that they only needed one seed, and that was enough. If they tried more, they would eliminate him. The vibe changed completely. Han, who was super hyped for dual cultivation, now started packing his bags. He said he was going to take advantage of the chaos outside to escape, but Wang warned that running away wouldn't help much. Outside, wormholes began to open in the sky, marking the start of the first invasion. From the streets, people looked at the sky without understanding, scared and curious. Han was confused too, and asked what those light fish were. The system explained that the game had broken the dimensional wall, and now everything from the other world could come here. From now on, Han wouldn't need a phone to play anymore, since his life had turned into a game. Obviously, he thinks this is too crazy, and realizes that if the world wanted to find him, there would be nowhere left to run. Suddenly, he hears a noise coming from the ground floor. It's the girl, completely taken over by a level 3 Wolf King. Desperate, our protagonist asks the system for help. He says that, as the savior, he can't die because of a giant dog. Then Wang Sen replies that he can earn points by making people feel good. With those points, he could get almost anything inside the game. Han gets suspicious, right? What's this business about making people feel good? Even so, the system gives him 30 points for another mission he had completed earlier. With the points, Han can choose a blue card for equipment, gold for medical items, or a special ability. He picks a skill and gets the Flaming Punch, which is cow level, and boosts damage to 300 for 5 minutes. He also receives equipment to activate this ability. The problem is that the device is Earth type, and it doesn't match the new firepower at all. Even so, it would have to do somehow. Ruin activates his ability, and a hot, intense energy starts to come out of his body. Meanwhile, Ren is being humiliated by this Wolf King. Most of her clothes were already torn, and she felt she was really close to the end. Before being eliminated, she apologizes to her father for failing the mission. She just wanted to return his affection in another life. But just in time, a burst of fire explodes in the middle of the battle. From inside it, Han appears like a true hero. With just one punch, he sends the Wolf King flying. Ren falls completely in love with the savior who appeared out of nowhere to rescue her. Even with the leader defeated, several smaller werewolves charge forward. Ren yells for the young master to be careful, but Han, already confident, says he doesn't have time to play with these puppies. He curses and easily knocks them all down. Without wasting time, he runs to finish off the Wolf King for good. The monster even tries to fight back, but it's destroyed without any chance. This shows the game's mechanics. When there's total control, the attribute bonus didn't even matter that much. With the Wolf King's defeat, Han ends up receiving 50 points from the system. Looking closer, he sees that he now has access to the attribute panel, just like those system manuals we follow. Back in the room, he tries to stay safe. Wang appears again and asks if he's enjoying the game. Rao yells that he hates this kind of game, that he didn't like anything about it. Behind him, Ren was already ready to continue what they had started before the fight. Now that he knows she'll eliminate him after getting that seed, Han makes up some excuse and says he's going to buy snacks. He opens the door and asks the girl to wait for him to come back. However, outside, he ends up bumping into a woman who pushes him to the ground and tells him to stay quiet. She steps on his chest and introduces herself as an agent of the Special Secret Services. Her name is Lin Fei, and she orders Han to cooperate, warning there might be an intruder in the house. While the hero gets lost in naughty thoughts because of the agent's beauty, she orders the subordinates to search the house. The agents, all geared up and protected, check every corner of the apartment. Since they don't find Ren, Han assumes she managed to escape in time. Taking advantage of the chance, he tries to convince Lin Fei that he's just a regular citizen, with no criminal record. But suddenly, the agent's bag and radio start to move, controlled by the developer's system. Without thinking much, Han slaps the radio to try to turn it off before she finds out. When the nerves calm down, he realizes the huge mistake he just made. To make it worse, the agent finds an inflatable doll at the scene. That alone was enough to get Han arrested. This guy just can't get it right. Already in the patrol car, he tries to explain he's innocent, but the officer just tells him to shut up. Suddenly, an explosion happens, and a medical octopus starts destroying everything in the city. Several other superpowered people show up too, fighting alongside the population against the monsters. Han keeps saying that each day this world gets even crazier. Meanwhile, Lin Fei tries to report the situation, but her superiors tell her not to get involved, saying the mission wasn't hers. Annoyed, she throws the radio away and says all rebels should be eliminated. At the Special Services headquarters, the officer even tells him to wait, but no one says anything for now, thinking the system will eliminate him this time. Han decides he'll tell everything at the next chance. But before that, Wang takes over the camera and ends up calling Han an idiot for standing still, even though he had the strength to beat everyone. The protagonist gets even angrier and blames the system for making him the target of the entire planet. In the monitoring room, Lin Fei tells a guard that locking Han up will make him tell all the truths. But on the camera, she sees the boy flipping her off with that defiant look. But we know he was actually flipping off the system. Naturally, she gets furious, of course, right? And admits that she had underestimated this boy. Before entering the room, a colleague from the agency approaches her with a mischievous smile. Everyone knows he has a crush on Lin Fei, and that shameless guy asks for a chance, promising an unforgettable night. She doesn't waste time and warns that she knows his reputation very well, since he's worthless, and threatens to end him if he keeps insisting. Right after that, shamelessly, she enters the room and even slams the door in the guy's face, making the other agents laugh. Seems like this guy Tang just wanted to use Lin Fei to climb the hierarchy with the director. Two colleagues comment that he was a coward, and that makes him red with rage. Already inside, Lin Fei goes straight to the point and asks Han what he saw on the day of the invasion and why his house was attacked first. Our hero tries to play dumb, but she already suspects he knows something. She shows that the wall of his house was destroyed and asks again, "Why are they after you?" Our hero doesn't know how to explain and keeps stalling. At that moment, in the hallway, screams echo, and we see some splashes on the wall. Tang appears with a weapon in hand, saying she really is powerful and wondering who will be next. Lin Fei quickly comes to mind, and Tang starts going down the stairs, leaving a trail of bodies. In the evidence room, an employee asks if the director ordered an audit. Another employee questions if they need to do this at night. Tang just says he doesn't know. He asks where the new items that arrived are, and without realizing the danger, the guard says they're on shelves 19 and 21. With this information, that shameless guy defeats his colleague without hesitation. He comments that those items were real treasures, and that letting them gather dust was a crime. So he grabs everything he wants and sets off with a plan to take over the world. Later, on the stairs, an agent finds traces of blood and alerts the other guards. The news quickly reaches Director Watton, who becomes furious and even breaks the pen in half. The team was still checking the cameras, trying to find out who this killer was. Another officer arrives and says that Tang was seen entering the evidence room 20 minutes earlier and hasn't come out since. Even with suspicions about what he wanted to do there, the director doesn't want to hear guesses. He needed proof. For him, anyone who eliminated a colleague should also lose their life. Watton then decides to take care of it personally. In the evidence room, the team arms up and positions at the door, with the floor guarded and the windows sealed. They were ready to act, but before they could break the door, an explosion throws them away. From the smoke, Tang appears laughing at the agent's dedication for working overtime. This guy is worthless. They even start shooting, but Tang was covered by armor made of thick mist. The director's assistant starts to panic. They realize Tang was using a powerful artifact, but Watton stays calm and orders the use of nitrogen bombs. The agents launch this special liquid to try to break the armor. Even so, Tang mocks, saying he'll show what real terror is today. With the situation getting out of control, the director orders the evacuation alarm to be activated. However, he decides to keep his promise and stands in front of his men. Tang sees this as real stupidity, since now he was powerful with this armor and his new powers. Even so, when the men face off, the director doesn't back down with the other agents. Meanwhile, in the interrogation room, Lin Fei presses Han against the table and demands he confess everything. Suddenly, the alarm goes off and Lin runs out to see what's happening. She sees agents running in panic because of the destruction caused by Tang. Before she can understand, that madman breaks through the ceiling and appears there with a smirk on his face. He says he's happy to see her again, but Lin pulls out her gun. At that moment, Han, relieved by the distraction, finally manages to breathe. However, Tang kicks the door down and hits Lin in the stomach with his elbow. Taking the chance, he does what he wanted with the girl from the beginning. Mocking her, he says she can't resist anymore. Desperate, the girl could only ask for help from someone else who was there. And who was there was Han, trying to sneak away in the middle of this mess. He even says he doesn't want to get involved in their relationship, especially in the middle of all this chaos. Tang gets irritated but still doesn't intend to defeat our hero. Before Han can escape, the system invades the chamber and speaks to him live. It starts calling Tang a bum for insulting women, making the villain furious. Lin starts to feel even safer with that. And our hero keeps trying to make excuses, saying it wasn't him who said those words. It was the system. Tang holds back, showing surprising control. But the system keeps going, and even calls Tang impotent. Even swearing it wasn't him, Han ends up becoming the target of this villain, who thinks he's the one insulting with those harsh words. Luckily, he still has 30 points to use on a random skill. He hopes to get something useful, and unlocks the Blood Dragon Pillar. He could only use it 10 times, so he decides to activate the first one right away. The skill forces Tang to retreat, revealing our hero's new power. The little villain realizes the boy had been pretending to be weak all this time, but that only makes everything more fun for him. Tang then uses a dark ability and orders his enemies to be hunted. Elsewhere, Han and Lin Fei manage to have peace for a moment. Our hero celebrates still being alive, but the system appears calling him a coward. The protagonist gets annoyed and asks if Wang wanted him to throw himself into danger. After all, Tang had several permanent skills, while our hero only had temporary ones. Wang replies that the points don't matter, and that she can give as many as she wants. Lin didn't understand anything about what was going on with that talking computer. Han takes the opportunity to explain everything to her, and even yells that it's Wang's fault for creating this game and opening a dimensional wall between the worlds. Lin finally understands how Tang got so powerful so quickly. She says he probably took all the confiscated items from the department. Han asks what they should do now. The girl decides to look for her father, the only one who could do something about it. Han wanted to know if the director was that burned guy he saw on the cameras. They had access to the evidence room and saw someone badly injured. Lin panics, but our hero asks her to calm down. If she goes now, she'll be eliminated. And they don't have time, because a beast was approaching. Lin starts crying and begs for help, saying only he could do something to help her. The system likes the girl's attitude and suggests she motivate Han, if you know what I mean. Surprisingly, she doesn't refuse and tries to seduce him. But it's not enough for Wang, who says he feels nothing. This ends up hurting Lin's pride, who's always been adored by men. She never had to try very hard. Furious, she pushes our hero and starts taking off a bit more clothing. She won't accept that he doesn't find her attractive. Even thinking this situation was very strange. Our protagonist was obviously going to take advantage of it. Right after, Lin asks if that was enough, and the system answers yes. Han tries to apologize, but then the system window pops up with a reward. He had earned 200 points and became the first player to reach level 3. His stats increased, and he gained 3 more reward cards. At this level, the chances of getting good cards increased a lot. Suddenly, the door shakes from several strikes. The beast had finally arrived. Han grabs the 3 cards at once, without thinking too much, obviously. He had received the blue dragon armor, which was S rank, and a potion with a 30-minute effect. Finally, the last card was a skill that lasted for about 10 uses. The beast broke down the door, and Lin started to panic. But our hero appeared wearing an S rank armor. He took down the monster with such force that the explosion was felt outside the building. Tang notices that huge impact, and gets excited about Han's power. So he decides to go after him to fight together. In the department room, the beast was defeated. Lin was impressed with the prota's power, and the system explains that the armor is one of 4 S-rank pieces. With all 5 together, a person could even surpass divine power. Han's attitude toward the system changes. He decides to fully trust it. Pulling Lin along, he decides to save whoever he can. Wang gets all happy with that compliment, and our hero realized he could earn points by flattering the system. However, suddenly, an ice shard flies toward our hero. Han manages to dodge it just in time and almost dies. He blames the system for not warning him about the danger. Meanwhile, Wang gets irritated, saying that it's the player's responsibility to know these things. However, Tang ends up appearing. Seeing Han's powers, the officers suggest forming an alliance. He wanted to conquer the world with our hero, but our bro just wanted peace and was chilling with his waifus. Tang doesn't insist and instead activates his ice skill and decides to eliminate the hero. In response, Han activates his armor. Before fighting, he tells the officer to save the people while he handles Tang. The attacks came from all directions, but Han managed to defend himself. Tang, however, was faster and appeared in front of Han, ready to finish him off. Due to his lack of real combat experience, Han took a direct and powerful hit. What Tang didn't expect was that the armor was strong enough to destroy his skill and counterattack. The explosion that happened before with the beast repeated, and Tang was thrown out of the building. Han was shaken by all that. Wang tried to approach the hero, explaining that the S-rank armor worked like that. She also said that the blue dragon armor could return the attack even stronger. Feeling safer, Han thanked the system. But suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was the director, using his last strength to throw a punch. On the other side, Lin Fei was running to find her father. A nurse said he had woken up and gone after Tang. The problem is, he ended up finding Han on the way and was a bit confused. He thought our protagonist was Tang. The hero even wonders if that man was really Lin Fei's father. But before he could think much, the director destroyed a wall. With a furious punch, he charged at Han thinking he was Tang. Desperate, our protagonist could only run, begging him to open his eyes. It was only when Lin Fei arrived that the director stopped the attack. Later, ambulances arrived to rescue the injured. The initial report spoke of 6 eliminations, 13 seriously injured, and 43 with minor injuries. Also, there were 135 unknown items taken from the evidence room. Han then asked where Tang was, and Lin said he must have escaped in the chaos. However, the director promised to hunt him down. Without beating around the bush, Han asked about the system and the post-apocalyptic game. Han tried to explain that the system wasn't cooperating much, and that Tang only took a few devices. But that was already enough to cause chaos. No one knew how many items were still loose in the world. The director then reported everything to the superiors. He said they were ready for an armed response if necessary. After that, Lin Fei was appointed leader of special operations. She would have to recruit skilled people from all over the world. Han also ended up getting a role after going through training. However, as a good old lazy guy, he tried to escape, saying he was just a civilian. Lin showed up behind him with a scary aura and said that after what he did with her daughter, and for destroying the department, Han would have to make it up. Later, already at the building where he lived, our protagonist was complaining about being forced to do all this. Lin Fei asked if he still thought he had nothing to do with her, after everything they went through together. Instead of feeling happy, Han was confused by the sweet way the officer was acting. This one wanted something more. Directly, Lin told him to pack his things, because Tang could come back for revenge. But when he opened the door, Han came face to face with Lin striking a somewhat provocative pose. He even got embarrassed and didn't know where to look. Lin asked what the problem was, and thus began an argument between the three about whether Ren was Han's lover or not. Then, they arrived at a secret house, lent by the special services. That's where the hero was going to live now, and Han was impressed with the place. Lin said his room was on the second floor, next to hers. But she also said that Ren's room was in the garage. That made the girl furious, and Ori asked Ren not to provoke, since she could burn everything down. The girl went to rest, and left the two at ease. Ren then asked to go to his room, but Han said it was better for each to go to their own room. This one was a coward. The rejection made Ren cry, and she even wondered if he didn't like her anymore. The hero made up some random excuse and managed to enter the room and lock the door. Even so, Ren kept insisting outside to be let in and stay with him. The system thought it was a missed opportunity, since he could take advantage, and promised to give more points if the three stayed together. Han was already wondering why the system was insisting so much on these interactions. And finally, he ended up discovering the reason. Wong, the system, had never been in a relationship. So, she created this game thinking it would be like the real world, but ended up realizing something was missing: intimacy between humans. Even with all the power, she couldn't provide real pleasure to the players. After reflecting, she realized her mistake. She didn't know what intimacy was. It was like someone who reads comics but has never lived it for real. She even thought the world was based on those little stories. Han suggested that she search the internet, and even offered to send a very questionable link. However, the system ended up refusing, and said it preferred to learn by observing the NPCs she had trained herself. The hero said that just Ren was enough material for her to study, and even asked to stop with these situations. But the system started sweating bullets, giving excuses, and even said that more women meant more fun. At that moment, Han realized the system was no longer in control, and Wong started screaming that she was a god, and that she did have control. However, our hero wasn't really buying it. He even said that if she didn't tell the truth, he would cut the power and never speak to the game's creator again. With no way out, Wang ended up confessing everything. She said she messed up the code and broke the barrier between worlds. Now, the two worlds were linked forever. The hero was furious, worried about these catastrophic consequences. The system promised that with enough data, it could fix everything. But at the moment, it was too much for Han to handle. So he went to rest. The day had been very stressful. The next morning, he woke up a little confused. He didn't even remember when he had fallen asleep, and realized he wasn't dressed. And the worst part, Ren was right next to him just the same. He was shocked and started screaming. He was sure he had locked the door. Ren casually answered, saying she just pushed the door a little. But it wasn't quite like that. The door was completely destroyed. After thinking a bit, Han concluded that the data collection was probably already complete. But as if reading his mind, the girl explained she only followed his orders. She said he needed to rest before ensuring the baby's quality. Just to remind, they're here to get our protagonist's little seed to create the baby who will save the world. That's in the game's story. However, if he lets them take the seed, he will be eliminated. He quickly got up, got dressed, and went to prepare something to eat. Luckily for our hero and his peace of mind, Ren hadn't done anything weird. But now he knew he needed to protect himself better. Even so, something was off. One of his heads was using a certain object against his will. As if that wasn't enough, Ren stole a tiger from the zoo to cook for lunch, and news of that animal theft ended up on local TV. Han yelled at her to return that animal now, and even thought Ren's way of thinking was completely unique, not to say something else. But then, another problem appeared at the door. It was a strange girl looking for him. He asked who she was, and the girl introduced herself as Ju, the princess of the Northern Wind Empire. Seeing that he was uncomfortable, Ju said she didn't want to cause trouble. She just wanted to borrow something. And Ruin Han understood immediately. The Northern Wind Empire was the most powerful on the continent, a huge territory and a powerful army. But half a year ago, demons destroyed its capital. Since then, Ju wanted revenge. Her only hope was to recover the sword that once protected her kingdom. That sword was our hero, Ruin Han. Ju explained she needed his lineage, the Han family bloodline, to restore her people. So, she wanted what he had. And Han asked if she would leave after getting it. But she replied that the demons were also after him. They knew he held the secret to breaking the final seal. So unfortunately, she'd have to finish him off after the fun, if you know what I mean. Really not pleasant at all. The guy was even celebrating already. Without delay, Ju pulled out the sword and tore his clothes. And she was impressed by the descendant of the dragon general. Before he could react, she was already on top of him. Ruin Han warned that being rough like that could hurt him. But Ju seemed to be enjoying it. She had read in romances that movement made everything better. In the middle of all that, Lin showed up pointing a gun and wanted to know what was going on there. Ju replied that even if Lin was his wife, she had arrived at the scene first. That made our protagonist even more tense. Lin yelled at him for doing that kind of thing during chaos. That's when he realized. The second descent had begun. And no, folks, it wasn't a pun. Ignoring everything, he asked what the situation was. Lin, still not knowing where to look, explained that the agency was collecting items, but one team was having trouble. Han decided to go help, and Ju jumped in again, saying she needed the item today. Annoyed, he said if she wanted it, she'd have to wait all day, without breaking any fire hydrants. And the girl ended up believing that talk. In the romances, men lasted the time of a burning incense stick, meaning a few hours. But Ruin Han asked if those books mentioned anything as big as his. In other words, he didn't last long, but the guy was powerful. Without an answer, Ju agreed to wait. He offered a chance, but on the condition that she help with the missions. Excited, Ju promised to eliminate any enemy in the way. 20 minutes earlier, an explosion had happened in a building. Team D lost contact over the radio. Tang was there, responding to a call near Fei King Street parking lot. He had asked for reinforcements. And on the other side, they sent who he was already expecting, Captain Lin Fei. The scene shifts to Han, who was going with Lin as reinforcement. During the trip, the radio announced that the special team awaited orders, and Lin said Team D was 500 meters away. The focus was to rescue, not to fight. But he got distracted on the road and got an electric shock. His hand locked on the steering wheel, and he swerved just in time. Other vehicles weren't as lucky and ended up exploding. The officers didn't understand anything, but Han told them to look up. On top of the building, several criminals armed with sea-level cannons were ready to destroy everything. Seeing those shooters, Lin ordered everyone to disperse. But in 1 second, all weapons were cut. The assassins ended up eliminated. And all of that was Ju's doing. She was really hardcore. Without doing anything, Ruin Han gained experience points. And the system girl explained that since Ju was his subordinate, he earned half the experience points. And he got all excited, right? Since he could get rich without lifting a finger. But then, a strange sound echoed from the asphalt. A giant tentacle appeared. That was the celestial mechanism snake. Level 4. Ruin Han and Lin started screaming. She floored the accelerator, and the hero tried to use earth magic. It worked, but wasn't enough. The serpent was too fast, and he still told Lin to wait for a chance. Even wanting to fight, she ended up hesitating. Ju appeared flying onto the hood and warned that none of them were strong enough to help. But her pose, with those clothes on top of it, caught our hero's full attention. This guy was no good. Anyway, Ju went straight for the monster. Han wasn't going to just watch and ask the system for a card. He wanted a high-level skill to defeat the serpent once and for all. But when he flipped the card, he read, "Thanks for your sponsorship," and he got pissed right away. After all, it was a lottery, and sometimes you got nothing. Even so, he thought he was very unlucky. And while he complained, an energy arrow hit the car. The door exploded, and Lin fell right into the protagonist's lap. In the middle of that chaos, this guy has luck. Soon after, the car starts shaking a lot, and all the confusion creates a very suspicious scene. This guy was really lucky and still asks if, by chance, the girl had a weapon instead of opais, since his face was hurting a lot. During the turbulence, the bumps keep causing multiple accidents. The system inside the car gets all excited and announces on the dashboard that she was very satisfied. When the car finally stops, Tang appears approaching the scene. Han immediately asks what he plans to do. But, upon seeing the guy with the executor's blade, a cow-level weapon, our protagonist realizes he won't escape so easily. So, he asks for the cards to be activated again. Tang doesn't waste time and cuts the car in half with that sword, causing everything to explode. Before leaving, he brags and laments the tragic end of the two. But in the middle of the flames, he sees something coming out of the explosion. Han had used a rare card to summon the blue dragon's invulnerable armor, and managed to save Lin at the last second. The officer, of course, is even more enchanted with our protagonist, saying he was a true hero. Irritated with the scene, Tang goes on the attack and yells that he wants to see who has the stronger gear. Han is already jumping into the fight and tells the girl to wait. Surprisingly, All of Tang's attacks are blocked by the armor's scale shield. Desperate, X-Corp sends the shooters to eliminate the boy. The girl is shocked by the number of allies Tang managed to gather so quickly. The shooters unleash a burst of energy, and our hero manages to defend himself with great difficulty. Tang's confidence returns in full, and he orders the attacks to be at full power. Even so, Han keeps advancing, and Tang realizes he has fallen into a trap. He's caught in the crossfire. When he tries to run, something ends up trapping his feet on the ground. This time, the power that failed to restrain the celestial serpent worked well against humans. With no way out, Tang begins to beg the crew to cease fire. However, the shooters on top of the building misunderstood and thought he was ordering them to continue. In their minds, Tang was sacrificing himself as bait, so they kept firing the fire blasts. Under the crossfire, Tang sees his life flash before his eyes and, before the explosion, thinks of a sad poem about autumn, flowers, and capitalism. On top of the building, the same fate befalls the shooters thanks to Ren's surprise attack. She storms in and sets the rooftop ablaze. Han thanks his ally for the good work. Tang survives the gunfire, but now he has a new hairstyle. Poor man's joy never lasts. That's because Han manages to land a punch right in the middle of his chest, Kakashi style with the Marin. Across the building, an employee sees all of that and runs to inform the guildmaster, speaking about Tang's elimination. That makes her satisfied, as it proves Han is a valuable talent. Byong Sanji, president of Ice Frost, orders him to be recruited at all costs. With Tang out of action, the hero can finally relax. But he finds it odd to have earned only 50 experience points. Each shooter was worth 8, so the total should have been much higher. Lin calls him, and the boy runs off, leaving X-Corp lying on the ground. Suddenly, a blue energy surrounds Tang, heals his chest, and teleports him away. He screams excitedly, saying he's invincible now. Back at the conflict scene, one of the thugs confesses he's from the Silver Ice Moon Guild. They were ambushing the police under indirect orders from the guild. The officer is impressed with how fast this gang grew. She asks who the leader of this guild is. However, these thugs were only from the outer circle and didn't have that information. Lin takes the criminal to the station for a better interrogation. And now Ren, alone with the master, goes up to him and asks how she did today. Han praises the guild, but Ren wanted a reward for helping. He tries to dodge the topic by saying he needs to help Lin first. However, Lin appears out of nowhere, saying she destroyed the serpent's celestial mechanism all by herself. Even though it was difficult, she already finished the job, and the hero earned 100 points from it. Despite the gains, Han still finds it strange to be at level 3 and thinks he needs to focus more. He also realizes he doesn't want to gain points from sponsorships, meaning earning points because others are completing the missions. Later at home, our hero comments that he's starving. However, ordering food was unthinkable since everything was so expensive. Ren appears with a bowl of noodles she made herself. With a sweet smile, she hopes he really likes it. Han eats all excited and, after complimenting it, ends up spitting it out. Ren says that next time, he should try making his own food. Ju asks if she wasn't being too bold just because of instant noodles, and Han ends up agreeing. However, Ju also brings food, and with an outfit a bit more provocative than Ren's. Ren gets annoyed and says there's an order to serve the hero, and Ju counters by saying men like something new. The two then start arguing, beginning a rivalry between them. Meanwhile, Ranli just wanted to eat in peace. Ren says she won't let Ju do anything as long as she's around, and the girl says that, if that's the case, she'll find a way to get Ren out of the way. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. Han thinks it's real food arriving. When he opens it, a very beautiful blonde appears, saying it's a pleasure to meet him. She introduces herself, saying she's Miss Bao's personal secretary. Our hero stands before a banquet, and she also says they're preparing clothes for him and asks that he please attend. Han asks who this Miss Bao is. He soon realizes it must be the business queen, heiress of millions, and CEO of the Kyong Group. The blonde confirms and returns to the car, informing they'll pick him up around 6 in the evening. Han finds this very strange, because he had already tried to get into that company and was rejected. So he thinks about not going, since it could be a trap. But when he opens the box he received, he finds stacks of cash. It's clear that the invitation is something very serious. Soon after, the police receive information that the hero went alone to the banquet. The report said the car belonged to a famous company, so the officers decided not to get involved in the matter. Even so, Lin loses her patience and fires those responsible. At the headquarters of the Koya Group, a big meeting was taking place. Several important people were present there, and suddenly, the most awaited person arrives. Everyone goes silent, impressed by Bao's presence. Her beauty was almost supernatural, since she was incredibly beautiful. They say she earned a PhD at 19 and solved a global quantum physics problem at 21. Besides that, she inherited billions, which many think is unfair. And I would also love to inherit billions. That's why many people try to get close to her, like the owner of the Hwaim group. But in the middle of the conversation, someone announces that young Master Cao has just arrived. Cao had been clowning around for a while, so people just wanted to know what the trick was this time. Full of himself, the lunatic shows up on a red carpet, with flashing lights and 2 bodyguards by his side. Everyone is unsure how to react, except for Bao. Without much delay, Cao starts singing a really cheesy song, declaring his love for the president. The guests, obviously, are not into it. And the girl reminds everyone that he's the governor's son, telling them not to mess with him. Right after, the guy straps wheels to his knees and slides over to the girl. That guy really loved attention. Even with her pulling away, he insists on getting closer to give a passionate hug. But the reason she turned her face was different. Our protagonist was already there, eating as usual, before the conversation started. Cao comes sliding and hits his privates on our hero's leg. Furious, the playboy stands up and orders the guards to get rid of this scoundrel. The bodyguards, all bald, for some reason accept the order. But Bao steps in and says that this guy was John Han's guest. That leaves everyone confused, wanting to know more about who this guy was and why he was so important to the president. Since no one recognizes him, Cao says if he knows the rules, he should introduce himself. But before saying anything, Bao grabs his arm and takes our protagonist straight to her room. Cao gets super jealous, almost losing it right there, since he was in love with her. In the room, our protagonist compliments the place while the girl sits down. Bao says he shouldn't worry about what happened earlier. And suddenly, she starts taking off her sock, trying to seduce him, and asks if he knows the reason for the act. A bit awkward, Han thinks she wants to recruit him to her guild, and he's curious how she figured out who he was. Our protagonist explains that gathering so many people in so little time required a lot of money, and the way she contacted him gave it all away. Bao no longer hides it, and ends up revealing that she herself is the leader of the Silver Moon Guild, the known ice leader, and she still insists on the recruitment offer. However, our hero ends up refusing, saying the 5 million given earlier was already more than enough, and even slams the table, saying that if she really wants him in the guild, she'll have to offer something better. She realizes he had much more presence than Tang, and starts to see how he really was someone above the other guy. To show power, she asks how much he knows about the Apocalypse game. Han admits he doesn't know much and asks her to explain. Bao says she's been monitoring everything from the start and couldn't even hack the system, and concludes that the game isn't normal and its creator must be a genius. Out of nowhere, Wang appears on the panel behind her to show off, which annoys our hero. Bao notices and asks what he's hiding there. Even so, she continues explaining that since the first descent, she's been collecting information about the items that came to this world. She found out all those items were supernatural and managed to travel from the game. But the girl doesn't understand why our hero wasn't surprised. That's because he already knew everything and couldn't hide it. This situation bums out the blonde a bit, but she reveals she knows where and when the next descent will happen. Our hero understands the time, but not the place. She explains that these descents are global and affect the whole world, but good items appear in specific areas with certain patterns. Touching his face, Bao says if he joined her, she'd help him reach the top. Outside the window, Lin appears disguised as a spy and gives orders through the radio for the departments to act. She never imagined Bao was behind this and feels a sting of sadness. If Han accepted the proposal, she wouldn't have any role there anymore. Inside the room, our hero refused to be recruited, saying he was already committed to someone else. Lin heard this from outside and got all flustered, thinking he was talking about her. Even so, our hero leaves and tells Bao to settle the guilt before the police show up. The secretary asks if they should hire someone to eliminate him, but Bao says no, because having an interesting guy like him around was very good. Outside the building, Cao waits for a long time. Finally, the guard says the guy showed up, and Cao starts showing off. The guard asks if he's already waiting for the staff to bring the car, setting the perfect stage for a show. But Han opens the app and goes straight to a shared bicycle. Cao gets pissed off for being ignored by someone with such low status, let's say, right? And even orders his men to attack. But even with the car running, it wouldn't move. Looking back, there's Tang holding the vehicle in place. Later, our protagonist gets home and complains about the price of the bike. When he opens the door, Lin greets him with a smile and a glass of water. She says with the heat he needs to stay well hydrated, and even mentions the AC isn't cooling properly, trying to tease our boy. The hero turns all red, and she moves closer asking if he's feeling unwell. But he messes it all up by asking about Ren and Ju. Lin punches a hole in the wall from being so stressed and says she told them both to renew their IDs. Since they'll be alone, she was planning to reward Han for how he handled Bao. While she imagines how the night will be, a missile approaches the house. Since the place is a Secret Service location, the sentries fire and destroy the projectile. Even so, the shockwave breaks the windows. In the middle of all this chaos, our hero asks what the hell is going on. Lin says the weapon system has been activated. And, while he was still trying to understand why there were weapons in his house, Lin calls the security team. Even far from there, the sensors detect a short-range artillery attack. Since the house had withstood it, they start tracking the origin of the shots. Cao freaks out because the plan had failed, and now he thinks they're in trouble. Tang, on the other hand, says there's no need to panic, because that attack was only to mark the target. The real show was about to begin, with mounds of earth turning into level 2 explosive cicadas. These cicadas fire bursts into the sky non-stop, like a firework display. At the house, the officer sends a message to a special team, saying that if the enemy has artillery, they must have more hidden weapons. The guy who receives the message only sees some lights in the sky before everything explodes. Cao almost jumps with joy for finally defeating his rival in front of his goddess. However, Tang gets into the car and tells Kay to follow him, saying it wasn't over yet. Kay is confused, so Tang explains that Han wasn't supposed to be defeated so easily. And he was right. Even with the house destroyed, Han and Lin came out unharmed. Lin was furious at the enemy's arrogance, even though they survived. The next day, Lin ends up destroying a door along with other officers during a raid. Bal appears in the office, and Lin asks if something is wrong. She says there's an arrest warrant for Bal on suspicion of an attack. The executives in the room reject the decision and surround the officers with their bodyguards. Bal mocks them and says they don't have the strength to arrest her. At that moment, Han appears and advises Lin not to fall into the trap of the real culprit. Bal is surprised to see that Lin believes her. Meanwhile, Han explains that if Bal wanted to eliminate him, she would have done it at the banquet. The girl agrees to cooperate and goes with the officers without resistance. Even though that's what Lin wanted, she was annoyed because it was Han who resolved everything, not her warrant. At the station, fans crowd, and a report demands Bal's arrest because of her fame. During the interrogation, Bal denies involvement with the guild. Lin then asks why she invited Han to be her right hand. She replies that she just admired him and wanted to talk. Outside the room, the director asks if Huan is sure of what he's doing, and our hero confirms, saying Bal still wants him to join the guild. The system asks who is behind this, but the important thing is the reason, not the identity. Meanwhile, employee Lidal walks through the company. Before entering the office, Tang appears and asks if the system that predicts the future is in there. Back in the interrogation, Han feels like he's fallen into a trap. An employee bursts in, and Han says he's going to the company to keep watch. But the employee warns that the station is being attacked by superhumans. The target is high-security prisoners, and Han suspects it's the work of the same enemy, deciding to act. Before that, the director says he now has a team ready to help. Bang Shin introduces the new Rapid Response Division, who salute Han as captain. The director says each member of the team can face 10 enemies alone, thanks to their power. They also use skill badges, which make them even stronger. Han gives the order and everyone moves out immediately. At the prison, criminals are having a party, some even with women. One tries to take advantage of a woman, but gets a fire blast straight to the face. Han was there and orders them to arrest everyone and eliminate those who resist. The elite team acts so fast it almost seems unfair. Later, a soldier says the situation is under control, but some fugitives are still on the loose. Not even the ability user was found, which means they left before the team arrived. It might have just been a distraction, and it was. Bal's secretaries were trapped inside the company. While Tang was on the phone about Han's arrival, Cao panics. Tang destroys the phone and says this time he will defeat the boy. He won't be humiliated again. At that moment, our hero arrives at Phoenix HQ, which used to belong to Ren. He says thanks, but Ren insists on going up with him. Before entering, the two find a dead guard, a sign something very wrong was happening. On the president's floor, Tang appears and says he's been waiting a long time. Han is shocked. He thought Tang had been eliminated, but the guy enjoys the reveal and ends up saying he's actually immortal. However, Han isn't shaken. If he can't defeat him, then he'll imprison that guy forever. Tang isn't intimidated and activates a magic barrier with a simple gesture. Ren is confused, and Han tries to break the barrier with a kick, but fails. Then, he is teleported to a flat and very strange place. It was a completely different place from the company. Han asks the system where he is, and it says it's an S-class illusion. Also, it can only be broken from the outside. Han asks if there's no way out, and the system says that in most cases, no. But Han is an exception. He can escape by breaking the first seal with Ren. The big guy logically asks what seal that was. The system makes a cheeky face and shows a very inappropriate scene. The hero gets annoyed and throws the phone on the floor. This guy is a fool! The system explains that the game characters have biological safety periods. Let's put it that way. In other words, in those moments, intimacy is safe. because the NPCs are protected. He could practice dual cultivation without being eliminated. Every time fusion happens, the boy's strength increases, and the soul bond can double his combat power. Han comments that he's going to bother Ren a little, but she says she's totally willing. The big guy drools with anticipation. Finally, he could get to the good part, something he had longed for after so much waiting. Their experience finally happens, but they needed to act fast, so there wasn't much time to enjoy it. In just a few minutes, the valve opens and a waterfall surrounds a tree, turning everything into energy. This energy breaks the seal and the system announces that the boy has reached the second level of the character. Nothing philosophical about this. Ren activates a magic spell with her giant spiritual form, which shoots into the sky. The illusionary world is completely destroyed, leaving only Han and the others inside the company building. Tang grabs the devices from the floor, eager to see the hero desperate. However, the devices react to each other and end up exploding, injuring the officer. He realizes angrily that, even after all this, the hero was still alive. After a full day of battles, Han promises to end everything once and for all. And Tang doesn't plan to give up, especially with a Class A weapon called Twin Blades of the Wind. Even with an S-level armor, it starts to crack from the blade's strike. The system warns that a counterattack would be necessary, since the twin blades pierce the armor. Luckily, Han's spiritual form can turn into any weapon with the soul bond. With that, he easily cuts the Class A blades. Besides the sword, the boy now gains the S-class equipment called Spiritual Eye, which alerts about danger. Tang tries to escape, a bit confused with the protagonist's power, but our hero cuts Tang's calf and stabs the sword into his back. This time, he wasn't going to let Tang escape, but also didn't want to defeat him yet. He asks how Tang manages to come back to life as if nothing happened. However, the villain activates another device and says Han will have to ask that in the next life. A flash explodes on the floor, and the company headquarters catches fire. Minutes later, Lin arrives with the police and sees the protagonist in terrible condition. Ren was even worse and needed to be taken to the hospital urgently. Lin is surprised that Han is alive after that absurdly big explosion. Our hero explains that Ren had saved him at the last moment. His sword turned into an umbrella and absorbed the impact of the explosion. Even so, Han was thrown against the wall. However, Ren took the worst of it for her young master. Han is desperate about her condition. Now that everything is calmer, Lin reflects on how insane this whole story is. Han reveals that Tang was responsible for everything and that he was still alive. This guy probably took over Bao's ultra-secret program. After that supposed death, Han ends up running upstairs with Lin. Soon after, in the boss's office, they find the secretary tied up. After removing the gag, the blonde reveals that Cal was also involved in the theft. There, she asks where the guild members were to let this happen. The secretary says everyone was bought with Cal's money. Elsewhere, Tang wakes up amid screams, still in shock from that explosion. Even in pain, he swears he won't fail again. The phone rings, and it's Cal asking where he is. The two meet, and Cal is furious that Tang ruined his reputation. Tang had promised to help win over Bao, but ended up blowing up the company building. Even so, he asks for the flash drive that Cal was supposed to bring. Now Cal doesn't want to do business with this traitor anymore, and even regrets it, but believes the people behind Tang would handle him. This villain is unfazed, as he knew he was stronger than those criminals. Cal orders everyone to attack and offers a reward of $1 million. The mercenaries charge in with everything. Tang already equips the Night Shadow, and also a high-class item. He crushes all the attackers as if they were nothing. At the other company, Bal is in shock for having lost her program. The hero comments that, if other powerful people found out about it, it would be very dangerous. Unfortunately, there was no way to deactivate the program remotely. There, she asks if it's possible to create another set to balance it. Bal says it'll be difficult, since even the databases were destroyed. It would take months to collect everything again. However, our protagonist assures that he doesn't need to recover the data manually. He could ask the system for anything. Bal asks what that means, but it was too complicated to explain. He ends up saying it's like he's the game's genius developer. The girl is shocked to find out that the developer is actually an artificial intelligence. The hero gets straight to the point and asks if Bal could provide the data. The system agrees, but with a condition of poverty. Then something ends up appearing there between Han and Bal. Meanwhile, Tang approaches because the enemies are somewhat afraid to attack them. Reaching level 4 only made him more eager to keep defeating these weak beings. But, since he was already tired, he warned that anyone who wanted to switch sides could do so now. For those who accepted X-Corp, which is Tang's nickname, he promised he'd give freedom to that person in this new world he was going to create. Scared, the mercenaries quickly kneel down. With so many people joining, money became a serious problem. Tang looks at Cal and asks if he had the cash to cover all this. The boy already starts crying, admitting he was just middle class. Even so, Tang began threatening him. He said if the boy's father didn't pay $300 million, He was screwed. Terrified, Cal ran off with everything he had, and Tang, without wasting time, sent his new henchmen after him. Now, with money, soldiers, and info, Tang swore he would defeat Han and rule the world. Meanwhile, in another house, our hero finished his shower and went to the bedroom. The two girls sat on opposite sides of the bed, unaware of each other. Then, our hero tried to start a conversation with the policewoman, but she totally ignored him. Han said she still had time to change her mind, but in front of him, she started taking off her swimsuit. Blushing, he said that was the way to get back what was lost. But before anything, he warned he would shower first. Wang appeared saying it was the first time they worked together. Han immediately started yelling, thinking it was strange for someone to force that on someone else. What he didn't expect was that Bao might really want to do that with him. Then, the system revealed it could track feelings based on her data, and Bao had been in love with our hero for a long time. Han changed his attitude. The system explained it was only helping to fulfill her wish. But at that moment, a shoe was thrown hard at the TV. Lin warned she was going to sleep and threatened to defeat our hero if she heard anything. Wang, as always, exposed that she detected high estrogen levels in Lin, and without telling Bao, she went over and hugged our hero from behind, explaining her reasons. She said his calm and confidence were unique, and that had affected her. Everyone looked at Bao with desire, but our hero was different from other men. He replied it wasn't on purpose. He was just allergic to those signals. Before he finished, Bao pulled him and ended up kissing him. Things started to heat up. Lin, lying there on the bed, pretended not to hear anything. And so, the atmosphere began to warm. The system got all excited and treated it like a live show. Since Lin joined the police, she became the center of attention. But she never cared about weak people, even with many approaching. When she joined the special sector with high grades, no one dared to approach her anymore. Only that playboy Tang kept trying, since he wanted to rank up. She thought the protagonist was a loser, but he proved otherwise to her, and thinking her soulmate was like the other girl was too much for her to bear. Meanwhile, Bao was there enjoying herself. However, our protagonist said the mission wasn't over yet. Without shame, he ended up asking Lin to join. She refused, all embarrassed, saying she wasn't as reckless as them. But seeing Bao was exhausted, she admitted she couldn't be selfish. While Bao begged for help, Lin finally gave in. She was beaten by insistence and curiosity. Without wasting time, Lin went to get ready as if to take a shower. Bao sighed in relief to finally be able to rest. Our hero said he was going to fit the piece in the puzzle. Lin was curious to see what he had. When she felt the puzzle piece, she understood why Bao was complaining. In a very philosophical way, Lin compared it to riding a white horse. It was no use asking the horse to slow down because it was wild. And after reaching the limit, they both fell exhausted to the ground. After this not-so-metaphorical ride, Lin said she accepted the horse. Even though she found it strange, she admitted it had been wonderful. However, finished, the hero asked if the system was satisfied. But the TV started showing strange codes, making Han worried. Both Lin and Bao asked what was happening. The system said everything was under control. So you can guess what was happening with the system, right? It explained that previous data was arriving en masse. Suddenly, the system evolved into a cute 2D girl, surprising Han. Without much delay, Wang said she would send the files for Bao to rebuild the program. After some time working, Lin asked if Bao could predict the next descent. But before any answer, the event could only be seen from the window. Han asked Bao to focus on finding the resource zone because he was going after Tang. At the top of the building, Lin asked if there was still time. Luckily, Bao worked fast and confirmed she had already located the place. Tang was definitely still in the city, but since they lost the advantage, there was a risk of arriving too late. Luckily, Bao has a teleportation device that can change everything. After passing through the wormhole, they arrived at the destination. Han was curious about how Bao got an item like that. She explained that, as leader of a big guild, she had some resources saved. There, she noticed they were already at a disadvantage. There were clear signs villains had passed through there too. It seemed another group had been at the site, with evidence of a recent fight. Soon they were dragging bodies inside. Han wondered if it was the spikes again. But there, she analyzed the footprints and ruled out humans, suggesting some fierce beast. Even so, they had no choice but to go in and take a look inside. Bao asked why there was no one, not even electricity. Then, Lin suggested calling reinforcements, but Han insisted on handling it alone. Suddenly, a dry body appeared, and a creature emerged on sight. Han decided to check better, but heard a scary noise from the second floor. When they got there, a man shot wildly and screamed for everyone to go to hell. Without warning, Aljinja shoots the shooter's neck and eliminates him instantly. Han even tries to understand what that was. Bao feels something strange nearby. When she turns around, she comes face to face with a giant spider. Desperate, she starts screaming for help. Han manages to destroy the spider with a very powerful strike. Confident, he asks if Bal is okay, but he soon realizes they are in the middle of a nest of those creatures. The two girls ask what they would do. The only option was to run as fast as possible. After a long escape, they find a door. It was locked and the girls couldn't open it. Han forces the door and knocks down two men who are hiding inside. He soon realizes there is a whole group of refugees in there. The men get furious, accusing Han of bringing the spiders back. The girls run inside, and Lin barely manages to close the door. Even so, they are met by armed bandits. Han comments that inside it was worse than outside. There, he already draws his weapon and introduces himself as a police officer. Han tries to calm the situation and asks if they are hotel employees. However, the men explain that all the employees had already been eliminated. He then asks if they are connected to Tang. Hearing that they are, he is not surprised by Tang's absence. After all, it's typical of that scoundrel to send others and not show up himself. He was a coward. Still, the bandits threaten Han. He warns that any suspicious move, and he will open the door for the spiders to come in. The bandits think he is bluffing, that he wouldn't be able to do that. After all, they are closer to the entrance, so they would be eliminated first. But Han doesn't care, because everyone will share the same fate. He starts counting to 3. The bandits don't believe him. Then Han decides to skip the count and tells Lin to open the door. Panic takes over the bandits, who surrender immediately. Han praises their choice. Minutes later, they were tied up. The leader says Tang sent them there to collect resources. But as soon as they entered, they were attacked by an endless swarm of spiders. Unfortunately, one by one their allies were defeated. Without beating around the bush, our hero demands to know where Tang was. The bandit pretends not to know. Our protagonist, of course, doesn't believe him. He starts dragging the man to the door, threatening to throw him to the spiders. Afraid, the man reveals Tang was hiding in his base. Han recognizes that Tang knows how to hide very well, but decides to go after him now. Lin asks how they will get out, since the spiders are dangerous. Han bets they are afraid of fire, so he blows up the entrance with a strong burst of fire. The spiders retreat scared, which surprises the girls. However, before escaping, a giant spider appears. It pierces Han's chest with its stinger. It even lifts him off the ground with extreme ease. Lin draws her weapon and promises to save him. But the giant spider calmly says it will not eliminate him. It states it will free him if the girls help with something. This was a level 5 creature. Actually, what it wanted was 500 humans in exchange for Han's life. He suspects and asks why it won't hunt alone. The spider gets irritated and wounds him again. It says he has no right to negotiate. It tells the girls to hurry because it's hungry. If they take more than an hour, the protagonist will be in big trouble. If it takes more than 2 hours, he would lose his life. What worries Lin and Bal most is Han's possible helplessness. The spider opens a path for them to leave, and they don't waste time. Lin decides to seek reinforcements from the department. Bal runs to the hospital to call Ren and Ju. The bandits, seeing this, try to flee too. But they didn't make a deal with the queen and ended badly. After a while, Han regains control of his body. Around him, there were many skeletons and webs. He realizes he is in the queen spider's lair. At the bottom of the web, other bandits were being prepared to become snacks. The hero wonders if Tang is also among the captured. The queen spider appears and approaches one of the trapped bodies. She pierces the body with her stinger, making it melt. She feels great pleasure doing this. This allows her to lay more eggs of small spider monsters. Seeing the number of spiders, the hero asks if they all hatched from her. The queen responds that humans will find out when the girls bring the bodies. She also warns that she won't keep the deal and will eliminate Han. Then he feels a little calmer, thinking this spider is just crazy. The queen doesn't like being called that at all. She even thinks about defeating him right then and there. Still, our hero notices she is using many tricks. This shows she is afraid of sunlight. The queen's reaction confirms his suspicion. She chose this place because many people would come looking for several resources there. Even in danger, our hero still tries to get information about the items. But the queen was not dumb enough to fall for that trick. Han stops pretending he is trapped. He activates his blue dragon armor. He breaks the queen's stinger, leaving her incredulous. After all, the poison should already be working. He shouldn't have that much strength. Our hero explains that, at first, the poison was working, but he ended up using a cold heart pill. With that, he changed his attribute, which was fire, to the poison attribute. The queen didn't expect that, but still believes she can defeat him. Without wasting time, she orders all her offspring to attack Han. Even fully healed, our hero still doesn't have skills against poison. So, he summons system cards and says he deserves something good for completing his objectives. Looking at the card, he doesn't understand what it does, and soon gets scared recognizing a familiar little girl in the ability. Han thinks if he had known this, he would have chosen another card. Still, he accepts his fate. The system appears and says that, with this super rare card, Han will no longer need electronics to see her. But for him, nothing could be worse. While they talk, the queen gets even angrier. She thinks this boy is mocking her and attacks with everything. They are thrown far away by the impact. Han asks what skills the girl has to help him defeat the monster. Because she is at a low level, she cannot summon weapons, but she can provide some common items. The options are a jade bed, a dragon tendon kite, and a mysterious bird fabric. The hero thinks the system must be joking with him. The queen laughs, saying she has never seen such a strange pair. Without wasting time, Han asks if there is anything really useful. The system says that in the current state, it cannot provide anything with combat power. So our hero asks if it can at least call Tang's transport support. The girl starts looking and asks if he is trying to escape. The queen does not want to allow the escape and decides to finish everything quickly. She assumes her most powerful form. Han warns he won't hold on for long, and that the girl should alert him when she finds the queen. The queen advances with huge claws instead of hands. Han tries to defend as best he can, but the attack makes him think how many humans she must have defeated to be so strong. The armor's shield cannot withstand the impact and breaks. They almost get hit in the face, and on the second blow, the queen hits and throws Han hard against the wall. At the last second, the girl throws an item to him. Even stuck on the wall by the webs, our hero manages to catch the item. Han smiles and activates the item. A rift opens in the structure of the place. The queen asks if he intends to escape through the tunnel. Even without being able to breathe because of the web prison, our hero never wanted to flee. Help came from outside and hit the queen directly. She never imagined the sun could be so powerful. Now that he was recovered, he activates the dragon armor. The queen realizes he is no longer trapped and understands he kept her immobilized on purpose. Our hero was only trying to gain time with all that. The queen begs for her life, saying she could serve him as a mount or something like that. Comment if you would like to have such a spider as a mount. However, Han didn't want to hear any of that, and ends up crushing her mercilessly. With the battle over, the system asks why he doesn't care about the items. Our hero assures he will find them sooner or later. Besides that, there are more important things now. He leveled up 2 levels at once. But instead of celebrating, Han asks if the system noticed something. Before, he received a congratulations message for being the first to reach those levels. But now that he was at level 5, he got nothing. So probably someone had already passed level 5. That could mean Tang had reached a higher level than him. Leaving the hotel, our hero found reinforcements arriving. Han says he will go after Tang, since the spiders were defeated. He asks the girl to protect the building and look for special items. The officer offers to continue with him, but our hero refuses, saying the more people go with him, the more attention it would attract. Lin smiles, relieved to see the big guy was okay. Suddenly, a soldier shouts that someone appeared at the top of the stairs. Since the person ran at high speed, the police start shooting. Lin orders the team to follow, saying they can't let the stranger escape. She wonders if Tang's team is still in the prison searching for rare items. Meanwhile, a group of men celebrate having survived the trip and now being full of items. One says the boss was right, and they found many treasures. They even call Tang a genius. They hear a strange noise, but the bald man tells his partner to focus on the road and not worry. Then he says it's better to prepare so it doesn't look like they were hiding items from the boss. However, Han hears everything from above, hidden on top of a car. Later, the subordinates arrive at the base and find it strange the boss hid in such an empty place. Getting out of the car, Lin asks how the collection went. They answer they managed to gather 18 items. She still asks about the last group and why they haven't returned. The bald man said maybe they had problems on the road. No one knows where the boss was, but Han hears everything under the car like a true 007 spy. He is impressed by Tang's ability to gather so many people in such little time. The guy really was very clever. Then, our protagonist realizes he would need a safe place for the boss to arrive. Meanwhile, one of the hostages complains about the situation, and the guard replies, "What is this? Or do you pee your pants?" The guy cries, saying even after giving all the money, he was not released. The guard didn't care, but Han appears out of nowhere, knocking out the bully. The guy barely reacts, and Han slaps his mouth, warning if he says a word, he will regret it. Minutes later, the guy tries to thank our hero, who says it was all coincidence. This guy dresses to go along and asks where the car was. Han doesn't understand what he means by that, and the guy gets worried about having to walk down the mountain. With a little smile, our hero says they will have a car as soon as they finish stealing one. Soon after, the two appear disguised at the main gate. The guard asks why they took so long. Han makes up that the boy had serious bladder problems. After some lame excuses, the guard lets them in. The guy points to the boss's room but warns there are many people inside. So, Han enters and comes face to face with a very beautiful woman. That worries him because of his history. You know, right? The women there are tough on our hero. He comments this doesn't seem like Tang's style, and the woman laughs, saying she wouldn't be there without a reason. She still warns that, to find the boss, he would need to defeat her in a fight. Han is confused by the girl's bizarre hands. The system warns that she is a mutant chemist from the game. Our hero wonders how the cultivation game ended up turning into this whole mess. But the mutant is proud of her creations. Without much talk, the girl goes on the attack. Han dodges easily and asks where the boss was. The mutant doesn't answer while he keeps dodging and making some jokes. He asks if all the girls in the game are like that. The system notices the surprise as Han defends himself without any equipment. This happens because his attributes were evolving over time, so he was getting stronger. However, the girl still hasn't used all her power and decides to go all out. She transforms her own tongue into a drill. Han comments that it feels like he's in a horror manga. She announces she will eliminate him, but he only thinks about how she manages to talk with her tongue like that. Irritated, the mutant charges at high speed and manages to tear our hero's shirt. Even so, he keeps dodging, driving the system crazy. The problem is that if a single hit landed, his body would be crushed. So the system shoots to force him to retreat. But it was too late. At the last second, Han activates the blue dragon armor. Her blow hits hard and ends up bouncing off. Han comments that despite the speed, she wasn't very smart. The system cheers excitedly to see that our protagonist's strategy worked. The hero explains he didn't use the armor before to avoid alerting the opponent. Outside, the guard and another ally make noise, worrying Han. So he runs out of the room and asks what was happening. The guard says that fortunately, the police had arrived. Lin runs up the stairs to find the two. She was the one who was in love. Han asks why she was there since he had asked her to stay at the hotel and protect the place. She explains, somewhat exhausted, that someone stole all the resources and fled to that place. She asks if there is anyone suspicious. Han hears a noise coming from a room. They realize the mutant girl was stealing again. Our protagonist launches a burst of fire that explodes next to her, stopping her escape. He approaches the girl saying she is the second of the night and that he won't hold back anymore. But, to his surprise, the girl surrenders and says she admires our hero. Suddenly, the third girl appears and introduces herself as Duquesse Sinagio. She also says she came to marry our hero. She says they can do it before the wedding, leaving our hero completely shocked. At the same time, he feels tempted. He still pushes her back, calls her a liar, and tells her to stop making things up. Then, he demands that Sinagio explain why she was stealing the items and if she has any connection to Tang. Immobile, the pink-haired girl says this is part of the Tease clan tradition, which was her clan, and that it was an engagement test. The system confirms the clan lived in Wind Village, in the west, and they specialize in theft, with about 400 members. Han asks the officer what she meant by this engagement test. She explains the hero is seen as the savior who will defeat the Demon King. Because of that, they wanted to marry him. Han answers he can help even without marriage, trying to be kind. But she punches him because the clan's rules say they only accept help from a spouse. Then, she says they can discuss it later. Chenille is very happy because her father wanted her to marry the Demon King. But she always thought the hero was a better idea. Han asks if she is running away from the marriage. She confirms yes. Then he asks if she isn't afraid the Demon King will defeat her whole clan. The girl answers it will be fine as long as she takes the savior with her. Han asks if the king is really that powerful. She explains that not even the whole clan would be able to defeat him. But all this is heard by Tang, who now knows everything. Out of nowhere, he feels something very good. A girl was praying for him. Curious, she asks what he was watching on the computer. Tang dodges, saying the interesting thing is her. The two end up meeting again later. Our hero was at his house and ends up introducing the group's new member. Chenille introduces herself excitedly, saying she is our hero's fiancée, and asks the other girls to take good care of her. Of course, the other girls get very irritated, especially angry with Han. Chenille doesn't understand and asks what the problem was since the two were clearly soulmates. Ju understands she wants to compete for Han, so she draws her sword and challenges Chenille to a duel. She ends up accepting. But our hero warns that if they destroy the house again, they will have to sleep outside. In the end, he didn't care about anything anymore, and didn't mind if they destroyed it. He just wanted it to end soon. Suddenly, his phone rings. He asks what it is and gets a tense reply. The voice on the other side said they accessed the game backend and found nothing about biomanos. So the blonde doesn't believe the mutant came through the descent. Then he raises the hypothesis that maybe Tang discovered how to open channels directly to this game. If that is the case, he could summon any character from another world. That meant the action would increase drastically, and our hero now needed to double his precautions. After this tense talk, our hero lay on the bed reflecting on how Tang managed to do all this. The guy must be very intelligent. In a laboratory surrounded by scientists and executives, an innovative experiment was about to begin. He asks Professor Zhang about the project's progress. This Zhang replies that it was almost working, and that the software creator was a true genius. In seconds, this Zhang identifies the dimensional location of the game characters and ends up activating the system. A black portal appears in the middle of the place, causing everyone to panic. From the center of the portal emerges the true Demon King from another world. He becomes curious to know who summoned him. Tang, with his henchman, appears and says that he was the one who called him. Without wasting time, he says he knows where the Demon King's runaway bride is, and proposes they join forces. The next day, the hero wakes up tired but quickly gets up upon hearing a commotion outside. Outside, Cao appears with musicians and is enchanted by the beauty of the girls accompanying our hero. And he was not only enchanted by the girls' faces because, like a good old shameless man, he also notices other measurements. Our hero appears and asks if someone is getting married. Ren explains that those people say they know the protagonist. The boy looks closer and recognizes Cao, getting shocked. Cao starts crying and apologizes for having offended the father. Han shouts that he is not his father, but Cao thanks him anyway and says he will follow everything he says. Tired of all this situation and the attention he keeps receiving, our hero tries to leave, but she invites him for a coffee. He says he lost his appetite, but Cao asks him to wait, as he has something important to tell. Inside the house, Han asks what this information is. She explains that when she was captured, she met a professor who had also been kidnapped by Tang. She doesn't remember the name exactly, only that it was Liu something like that. But it was possible to see they were building something together. Later, Bal identifies this man as the main quantum mechanics specialist who disappeared about 3 days ago. That finally makes this kidnapping make sense, right? Probably it was Tang who took him. Han asks why the villain was interested in a professor. The girl replies that no one could say for sure, but it was certainly not something good. Our hero agrees but cannot avoid getting distracted by Bal's beauty. She continues talking that she will monitor particles to try to track any trace. Changing the subject, Bal comments that she has a present for him, Han. He thanks her, staring at her face, not noticing what the present was. She asks why he is all red. Our protagonist makes excuses, saying it was because of the heat. Bal laughs and goes to get the present. While she is out, our hero wonders why he was so nervous around her. Bal returns with a box in her hand and says that, after the last incident, she no longer lets anything important be thrown away. Han murmurs to himself that things evolved too fast since last time. She gives him a bracelet. When he asks what it is, she tells him to wear it, then explains that she created this item, and it serves to store and activate resources when he needs. That was great for things with limited usage time. Our hero thanks her again. She says that, together with Lin, she decided to focus on him to defeat Tang. That's why they went after the director. But at the department, she got a direct no. They didn't want to help. Her father, who is the director, said that even having the items, he has no authority to use them. Lin got angry because if the items stay unused, they will be stolen again. Aten still explains that only someone with high rank, values, and discipline could take care of that. There she understands he was talking about himself, and she was not grateful at all for that. Later, 2 men laugh in a luxury room. One of them was Major Lu, who says that now everything depends on the other. The other guy was Lu Shang, his son, and a standout student, a gold medalist. This Shang reassures his father, saying he will handle Tang. But the father warns that not even the special forces managed to defeat this ex-cop. Still, Shang believes they can use Han as bait. Later, Han is called to a meeting. Ju explains that the military does not know how to use the items and asked for his help. But the major ended up disappearing, and the equipment is being destroyed. Meanwhile, Shang tries to convince a journalist to hold a headline for 2 days. In exchange, he promises to take her to dinner. Then he hangs up. Shang greets Han saying he heard about him. Our hero replies that he is no hero at all. Still, Shang continues flattering Han, and he begins to give in. Meanwhile, Lin gets suspicious of Shang. Lacking humility and afraid of responsibility, she asks for help training Han. He asks if she is sure about this, since these battles are real and people actually lose their lives. This is no joke, and the girl confirms, saying she knows the risks and is ready to sacrifice for the country. Looking like a badass savior, he says he will go to hell instead of others. That guy was a liar. However, this exaggerated attitude is almost unbearable to watch. Shang asks how the recording went. The team said it was inspiring, even without tears. Then he orders to add a beauty filter and send it to TV immediately. Lin and Han feel embarrassed by this whole scene, right? Still, the hero returns to the training topic. But guards enter with wine and a chair for the young master. Shang complains he is tired of standing and says he doesn't want to get involved anymore. Lin finds this attitude very regrettable, since the country is choosing a superpower for Luz. But this information was still classified. But according to the military leader, whoever is chosen gains huge importance. Shang says he has no interest in that, and that he is only there because of his father. Despite this, he reveals that he knows where Tang was hiding. Because he has contacts in the underworld and with the authorities, he thinks it is very easy to find this Tang. So he ends up giving the location to the hero. He asks why he was outsourcing the work. Shang replies it is an unnecessary risk since there are better people for that. Lin asks if the information was reliable and if he really trusts this source. Shang bets his life on it. Han runs off, and the officer promises to call reinforcements. He does not want to waste time since he finally knows where the enemy is. Shang orders the detention center to mobilize. The information leads the group to the suburbs, near the water treatment station. Even so, Han is not in a hurry. He wants to see if Shang will do anything. He comments that such a narcissist would not miss the chance to promote himself at his expense. So he was already onto the plan. Lin is impressed with this talent of our hero. Even knowing everything from the start, she admits the boy acted very well. He realized it could be a trap, but stayed curious to see how Tang would appear. Suddenly, the officer gets an urgent call. There was a power outage at the prison, and all the supervillains escaped. Among them are prisoners who arrived from Meccan 2 days ago. Desperate, the officer orders a manhunt for the criminals throughout the city. Later, some thugs explain the chaos at the detention center. They say that is why they are there and ask the boss for another chance. All promise loyalty and claim they will follow him to the end. But with the police spread everywhere, Advisor Tang suspects something is wrong. One of the thugs comments that Han might be on a mission at the water treatment station. He says he heard this from a guard last night passing by the cell. Tang, who is not stupid, immediately understands they are trying to set a trap. The advisor asks if they should ignore the plan. Tang replies that if the target is there, that is enough. At the Major's son's house, a guard praises the brilliant attitude of the master, Lu Shang. He is very proud, and only waits for the right moment to appear at the end and take all the glory. However, Tang and Han have plans to turn the game around. After waiting a lot, Lin finally spots Tang through binoculars. He was with 2 other guys. The hero comments that the supporting cast can enter the scene. Then, he calls the system to locate Lu Shang's spies nearby. The system warns it is only an observer and cannot interfere directly. And Han says that with a little help, he can make a new deal with Lin next time. The system asks if that was a promise. Our hero does not hesitate to confirm. Then the system starts looking at the girl with a different gaze. Without delay, it flies off to search for the spies. The subordinates spot the boss and realize they are alone. The guy asks if they are falling into a trap. Tang does not see the danger and decides to wait calmly from the mountaintop. A spy reports that only Tang was present. Lu Shang, who was on his way, panics wanting to know where the hero was. He was so close he didn't even consider the idea the protagonist wouldn't show up. Meanwhile, Ranley continues chasing the spy. He still thinks the boy could have escaped, but Lu Shang knows better and orders his guard to return. Suddenly, someone reports the hero appeared and also says the two were already fighting. That was exactly what Lu Shang wanted to hear. He announces he will arrive soon. The spy, already with a completely purple face, asks if he can leave. Even with permission, he does not go home. He goes straight to prison. 15 minutes later, the Major's car arrives. The guard reports the area was already clear. Lu Shang thinks it is because the fight was already over. The driver breaks open the door of the treatment station. The boy gets out of the car, grumbling that he will clean up the mess. But he is startled to see Tang and his subordinates still there. Tang asks who the idiot is. The advisor orders the others to capture him immediately. Lu Shang doesn't even have a chance to run away. His guard leaves with the car, realizing the situation. He prepares to fight with what he has. However, in a few minutes, he takes such a violent blow to the back that he screams for his father. The subordinates kick him like a ball. They mock the confidence he had before. Tang asks about Han. The boy says he was tricked and knows nothing. However, Tang suspects Han is nearby, watching everything. Back on the mountain, Lin asks if they should leave since it was useless despite all resources. Han prefers to avoid a direct confrontation. Suddenly, the Demon King appears behind him. He had been looking for them for a long time. An explosion shakes the top of the mountain. Tang realizes the mouse was caught by the cat. Our protagonist barely manages to escape, holding Lin. The Demon King praises his agility. He says anyone else would have been torn apart, like the spy. The protagonist thanks him, saying it was an honor. But Lin was worried because Han didn't come out unharmed. He asks the system for help. The system responds that is a game character, but the status info is hard to understand. Then it suggests Han request cards to improve luck, but our hero knows he doesn't have much time for that. Without beating around the bush, Han asks the Lord of the Abyss what he was doing there, and why he allied with Tang. The Demon King says he is there for a personal reason. In front of him is the thief who stole his bride, Han. He freezes from stress upon learning this. He even thinks about taking it out on Lin when he sees her. Returning to the focus, the Lord of the Abyss declares that after the fight, he will defeat half the world's population just to smell fear in the air. The hero starts telling a story about a purple potato spirit. He says he had similar thoughts in the past, but before finishing, he asks what happened to that spirit. Han throws a portal item on the ground and tells it to go far away from there. The demon is intrigued and asks, why didn't Han go with it? Why didn't he try to run away too? Then our protagonist explains that even if his body escaped, the head would still be hit in time. The Lord of the Abyss considers the answer quite reasonable. Without wasting time, Han activates his blue dragon armor. Now he could fight without restrictions. The Demon King prepares a super destructive black energy attack. Han assumes a defensive stance just in time. Even with an S-level armor, he struggles to hold the attack. Then the Demon King mocks his resistance. He says it's like trying to stop a carriage with your forehead. Soon after, the Lord of the Abyss adds another finger to the energy release. The following explosion is even more powerful. Something falls from the top of the mountain, and everyone gets curious. It's the hero. Even with the system suggesting he hide, Han knew that would only make the Demon King more angry. From above, the Lord of the Abyss prepares another attack. This time, he uses the strength of his entire hand. Tang starts to worry about the size of the coming explosion. The hit creates a huge crater, the size of a city block. Tang, now flying, thanks for the help in defeating Han. The Demon King replies that Han was still alive. Tang thinks that's impossible because of the explosion, since his subordinates even turned to dust. Even so, the Demon King suspects an illusion. Elsewhere, Han wakes up half confused, unsure if he was alive or dead. The system tells him to stay calm because if he died, the game wouldn't end. It also explains that it took Han to a hidden dungeon. It was the only place where he could hide. And it ensured it was an E-rank dungeon, meaning the easiest. There, time passed much more slowly, so Han could finish and return very quickly. Our protagonist gets excited and goes after the dungeon boss. However, the system warns about a black bear nearby. Han stays alert, but what he didn't expect was to face a D-rank dungeon. And with a level 10 dragon boss in the department's central area, Hein and the others wonder what was happening. After resting a bit, Lin yells for them to follow her. Han was in danger. Back in the dungeon, Han asks if he can just pick the cards. The system replies that even with the best item, he wouldn't win easily. Our protagonist wanted to know how many rounds he needed to reach level 9. Wang calculates and says if everything went well, he'd need 30 rounds. Our protagonist, of course, doesn't like that answer at all. He thinks it would be better to try a slightly harder dungeon. The system insists he keep going. Even if it didn't make sense with his current strength, Han would die against a D-rank monster. They say there are smaller monsters, but this dungeon only had E-level ones. It was better to go straight to the boss. From atop a tree, a goblin attacks Han. He asks if that is the boss, but it's just a common forest monster. Han is shocked because the system said it would be very easy, but the monster destroys the ground with a single blow. He even asks if this really is a common opponent. The system checks the data and confirms he is the boss. Han feels relieved since he doesn't need to hunt him, especially since he's only one level above him. However, Wang starts to get suspicious. The system doesn't remember creating a dungeon with a goblin boss. Without wasting time, Han activates the card's luck. He picks an equipment card. After the attack, the goblin's club is cut in half. The hero just received a legendary SS rank item. With his weapon broken, the goblin loses composure. Han uses his lightning sword and flies past the monster. He defeats the goblin with extreme ease. Now he was excited, gaining 500 experience points. He even levels up to 6. Even without a class, Han already has high stats. He asks if it's worth waiting for the dungeon to reset and face the boss again. Wang agrees, even if the experience gained is reduced. Suddenly, something catches his attention. A group of goblins appears out of nowhere. Han asks if that is normal. The system says that actually this dungeon was wrong. Here, level 6 is nothing. The boss that's coming is too strong to ignore. The system apologizes for the mistake. Now the highest priority was to get out alive. It all starts when the hero's sword glows with power. The goblins run away. Han gets amazed, thinking he was super powerful, but the system warns him something. The goblins weren't running from our protagonist, but from a dragon with earth armor. That was the real dungeon boss. Facing the huge creature, our protagonist comments, half sarcastic, that it seemed quite gentle. Wang says the only way out is to defeat the monster or die trying. Han gets furious at that. The system explains that if he died there, he'd only lose experience. He wouldn't really die. Still, our hero thinks it's better to keep defeating goblins and come back stronger later. But the dragon starts preparing a deadly attack. showing it won't let him escape so easily. The mountain released from the monster's mouth destroys an entire mountain. The entire warpath is vaporized. The system stays looking for our hero. Luckily, the boy was still alive, breathing hard, but with almost all armor destroyed. He thanks the armor because it saved his life, even with durability now at only 40%. Han doesn't believe dragons can reach him from so far away. Wang, with some regret, admits she put a special skill on those monsters when she created the game. The dragon starts recharging its attack. Han feels his body being pulled toward the center of the explosion. He didn't have time to think. If the armor broke, he wouldn't have the level to continue in the dungeon. Desperate, he asks the system to find any resource he could use as help. Suddenly, the sword that held him to the ground comes loose, and he is pulled backward. In his last effort, he manages to shoot a lightning bolt at the dragon's head, but it doesn't even tickle the activated shield. Han advances, but ends up being swallowed whole by the monster. Wang starts to panic. Of course, right? Thinking the boy would lose about 3 experience levels. But suddenly, the dragon starts screaming in pain. Lights begin to emerge from inside the monster's body, until it ends up exploding into pieces. In the middle of the remains, Han appears more alive than ever, all victorious, thanking the armor once again. He finds several valuable items among the dragon's pieces, items that could even be used to repair his armor. Now he was at level 8, and with much higher stats. The system congratulates the boy for being the first to reach so far, but warns the armor only has 1% durability, and maybe it's better to discard it. Han refuses to do that, and says it's the reason he has survived so far. He orders the system to use all the dragon's items to repair and improve the armor. With that, a light descends from the sky and surrounds the armor, which starts evolving. It becomes a sacred blue dragon armor, an S-class item with very rare skills. Now Han has a true golden dragon body and a fire breath from the sky. There were only 99 of these armors in the whole world, and comments said he was stronger. Convinced it's time to return, Han decides to solve the problem with the Lord of the Abyss. At the Special Services base, Sanjio asks why they were hiding there. Lin explains that Han asked her to protect him, and that was the only safe place with enough energy. Ju gets irritated, thinking they are underestimating her since she could destroy everything alone. Still, Lin trusts that Han will be fine with the system's help. The base is now equipped with special weapons, but as expected, it is attacked. Some soldiers try to stop the threat, and Tang tries to convince them that dying for a bad salary is not worth it. The soldiers ignore and open fire, but the attack is useless because one of them has a shield. Tang gets angry and gives up arguing, ordering everyone to be defeated. One subordinate, a bald man, prepares an attack with a body-enhancing skill, but an ultrasonic wave makes everyone unconscious. The one who did it was Ball, and she knew none of them would resist that attack. Tang gets even more furious with the alliance formed to defeat him. In the room where the girls were hiding, they celebrate the victory. But Lin knows it's not over yet since the Lord of the Abyss hasn't appeared. Tang warns that now it's his turn. Also, he shouts on the radio for everyone to look at the sky. Scientists notice the Demon King was already above him. He attacks mercilessly, destroying part of the headquarters. Ju, angry, rushes forward and cuts the villain right in the chest. Ren thinks they won, but it was just a superficial cut. Ju's sword ends up breaking, and the Lord of the Abyss mocks her. Suddenly Sanjio appears and stabs him, but the demon easily knocks her down. Upon realizing it was the woman who escaped the engagement, he swears to defeat her first. Then he attacks the building again, saying seeing others suffer is his greatest pleasure. Sanjio starts crying, losing hope and thinking everything is over. But at that moment, Han appears and punches the Lord of the Abyss in the face, throwing him away. Tang is shocked, not believing what he's seeing. The girls breathe relieved, and Ju comments that Han always makes grand entrances. Fallen on the ground, the Demon King asks how Han was still alive. With blood on his arms, our protagonist says hell didn't want him, so he came back to hunt the king. Tang is shocked by this new skill of Han. Now he could fly, but the system cuts the moment warning that the talisman that gives this power ends in 1 minute. Han can't believe that, and the Lord of the Abyss, irritated with the talk, explodes in energy. Han tries to protect Sanjio, dodging attacks as best as he can. However, the lightning keeps chasing him. Ball shouts for Han to pay attention. He realizes the attack was targeted, but before he could escape, his feet were trapped by the steel vine skill, used by one of Tang's subordinates. The lightning hits directly, causing an explosion in the building next to the department. The Lord of the Abyss was satisfied, thinking he finally eliminated our protagonist. He commented that the punishment was faster than he expected. Tang even praised his subordinates for the help, and they thanked him humbly. But then, behind them, Han appeared saying he barely escaped. This protagonist here is tough to kill. Turning around, The two were shocked to see him standing. The hero explained that, since he couldn't break free, he simply buried himself. Seeing this, Tang's subordinate ran to try to help the boss. But now Zia reacted, defeating them all easily. Ren and Ju also returned to the battle, taking advantage of the moment. Tang shouted for the Abyss Lord to deal with the women first. The Demon King launched a long-range attack, but Han appeared and defended them all. He dodged the attack with his new equipment, surprising the enemy. The demon could not believe his attack had been reflected. The protagonist realized it was the right moment to test his new weapon. Meanwhile, Tang grew more and more nervous, not understanding how the boy got so powerful so fast. Determined to finish our protagonist, the Demon King prepared his strongest attack. In response, Han launched an energy explosion with his lightning sword. The Lord mocked the attack, saying it would not stop him. However, the explosion was reflected and nearly hit the king directly. He barely survived, but Han appeared right in front of him, ready to strike again. The Lord tried to say that now the sword would no longer work, as he absorbed its energy. But Han explained the lightning energy had not been absorbed. It just dissipated for a moment, and was now 100% again. During his 800 years of life, the Demon King faced many enemies, but had never seen anyone like Han. All the lightning energy was concentrated in a massive explosion, and the king was incinerated, turning to little charcoal, or rather, turning into barbecue. However, the hero realized the body was hollow, like a cicada shell. The king had used a reincarnation technique. He came back to life but dropped to level 8 as a price. Disappointed, Han said he expected more from a boss and even thought he was very weak. Still, the king didn't give up and called Tang to help attack. Before he could do anything, Tang struck the king in the back. Everyone was shocked by the betrayal. Tang said the king was useless and that he would do anything to become even stronger. Before being eliminated, the Abyss King cursed Han, but Tang thanked the hero for the help, admitting he wouldn't have managed without him. Still, Han knew Tang was even worse than that Demon King. Without wasting time, Tang declared it was time to send Han to hell. The system warned the hero that Tang had 2 grade A items and 3 grade AAA items. He activated the Kira arm, gaining 300 strength and a bonus to critical hits. He also equipped power boots, gaining more strength and speed. He also used the repellent spear, the chainmail, and the agile crimson cloud armor. He completed it with the phoenix helmet and also the gloves of forgiveness, which weakened the enemy. Finally, Tang wielded the legendary divine double-edged sword, which ignored defenses. Fully equipped, Tang began to brag and declared his early victory. But suddenly, a grenade appeared before him and exploded with everything. The hero got excited to see modern weapons were still useful. Quickly, he threw more explosive boxes. Tang survived but was injured. Then Han noticed the villain was slower because of the equipment weight, so he advanced with a weapon, but Tang's helmet closed, blocking the attack. Tang laughed, saying the hero could not penetrate his defense. Han just asked if he didn't know metal conducts electricity. Then he discharged energy from his sword into Tang. A passive skill reflected the attack with even more force. Therefore, Han forgot this skill, but managed to escape the damage. Tang, on the other hand, was totally exhausted, and even began removing his armor. The hero mocked him for giving up. Still, Tang insisted he would still defeat Han and rule the world. Besides, seeing that, she thought it was all a delirium of someone desperate. Then she saw a group of people in the next building. They were clones of Tang, all armed to the teeth. The hero could hardly believe what he was seeing. The system explained that Tang was probably using an SS item called Resurrection Coffin. This item creates infinite copies of the user and guarantees immortality. Tang explained that today would be Han's death day. As the clones approached, the hero asked the system for the most useful card it had. One clone advanced, saying he wouldn't give Han a chance to defend, but Ju intercepted, saying she also wouldn't give the villain a chance. Suddenly, Han received a secret martial arts book from Taichu. He then started absorbing the content. In a few seconds, he already understood half. Soon after, the clones attacked with everything. His comprehension of that book reached 100%. Pretty easy, right guys? To read a whole book in just a few seconds. An energy explosion sent all the clones flying, defeating all. Tang tried to motivate his clones, saying the hero wouldn't repeat that power. Then Han charged with his new techniques. The ex-cops were shocked by the boy's sudden advantage. Tang breathed relieved when more clones appeared to reinforce the attack. He shouted at them, calling them idiots and ordering them to attack out of the hero's sight. Then the clones tried to attack from behind, doing what Tang asked. However, our protagonist ended up spinning his sword, defeating them all in one move. In the end, only the real Tang was left. The resurrection coffin kept generating more clones, but Han said he had already discovered 3 weaknesses of his. Tang thought that was arrogance from someone who had defeated a few copies. The protagonist says that the first weakness is that the coffin does not really resurrect, only the copy does. That is why Tang avoided fighting on the front line. The second is that the clones are based on an old version of Tang before his death. So, they were all level 6. And the third is that the more clones the hero defeats, the more experience he gains. From Tang's expression, everything Han said was true. Just by exchanging some blows, he already understood everything. Tang looks at him and thinks this is a real warrior. The guy knows his stuff, but he does not understand why he revealed everything to the villain, since that could help Tang. Back in the fight, Han says it's better to keep going because soon he will reach level 15. Tang realizes he is at a disadvantage and does something unthinkable. Eliminates 2 of his own clones. Then, he asks the clones to sacrifice themselves to strengthen him. But, since they are almost perfect copies, none of them wanted to really die. Even so, he does not care and starts eliminating his own clones. Han also joins the fight, competing to see who defeats the most clones possible. Alin felt proud, because his plan was exactly that. Let Tang know about the clones to divide the work and reach one-on-one faster. After defeating those clones, one of the ex-police mocks Tang, saying no clone compares to him. But finally, he could celebrate after reaching level 10. Then Han cleans his sword and says Tang would have had more chance if he had fought all together with the clones. The villain realizes that, actually, he was manipulated and begins to panic. Our protagonist warns that now it's too late, and Tang could use whatever he wanted, but he wouldn't manage to save himself. Sweating, the ex-police tries to come up with a plan. He points to the side saying he saw something. Han turns to look, and Tang tries a surprise attack, but the plan fails, and our hero holds the sword by the blade. Tang realizes the level difference between them, and without much difficulty, Han breaks the sword, calling him a rookie. In the last attempt, Tang taunts and challenges him to hand-to-hand combat. Han does not back down. Now he also masters combat techniques, even if he is a bit nervous about the boy's fighting stance. Tang attacks, trusting his military training. A quick and intense exchange of blows begins, but our hero wins again with great ease. Tang notices the difference in strength between them once more. But as long as the resurrection coffin exists, there is still a chance he will stay alive with his clones. The comet warns that if the coffin is activated, it will generate an energy fluctuation. And that is exactly what he was waiting for. Alin, who was monitoring everything, reports detecting the fluctuation at the warehouse and in the city's southwest. Then Han heads there immediately, leaving Tang behind. Tang only has time to curse before being eliminated. At the warehouse, the ex-police wakes up scared, saying he will win next time. But seconds later, a lightning bolt pierces the roof and strikes him right in the chest. There was our protagonist. Tang starts crawling, saying he will do whatever it takes for his older brother. But Han launches another lightning attack. No small talk, no negotiation. The villain ends up turned to barbecue. He just says to meet him in the next life. Later, the news announced the death of the gang leader. But no one reveals who was responsible. Alin finds it strange that the professor was kidnapped and still missing. The dimensional break equipment was also not found. Han asks if she thinks Tang had an accomplice. She says it's not impossible, so they will keep investigating. She recommended Han enter the provincial super elite competition, but he refused. Finally, he was ready. He said he would tell the organization that the hero didn't want the 30 million prize. Han suddenly stood up. The girl asked if he had changed his mind, with so much money at stake. Even our hero's personality had changed. He said he hated staying still, and that he would go even without reward. Alin said goodbye, and went to finish the registration. She wished him a good rest. 30 minutes later, Han was walking around the house dreaming about what he would do with the 30 million in hand. But when he returned to the room, something unexpected had happened. The girl from the thieves' clan was there, waiting for him. She wanted her master's attention. Startled, Han asked how she got in. Embarrassed, she commented on his victory against the Lord of the Abyss. She said it was a huge danger, so she was there. She closed the door, hugged Han from behind, and said she wanted to help her master relax. You already know what kind of relax that is, right? She said she now belonged totally to him, and he could do whatever he wanted with her. Our hero remembered she said she would only do that after marriage. But Shang replied that it was just a formality. They could deal with that later. While looking for the doll, Han remembered the consequences of getting involved with these NPCs. He ended up pushing her, saying she hadn't done anything wrong. He also said she didn't need to sacrifice herself for him. He suggested she return to her family. Shang asked if he really was going to discard her after using her. Our protagonist answered he hadn't used her. He hadn't even done anything with her. He said he never took advantage of the girl. Knowing she wouldn't win by talking, Shang disappeared in seconds. She managed to steal his pants, also took the jacket and the shirt, left our protagonist only in shorts. Finally, she pushed him. Right after, She climbed on top and said she would accept no more excuses. She claimed this was going to happen, whether he wanted it or not. Our protagonist, the scared one, was terrified. He asked if, by any chance, she would kill him after collecting the seed. The girl answered she would never do that. She said that if anyone disrespected him, she herself would face that person. That's when Han understood everything. Her goal was never to steal his essence, so to speak. She only wanted to defeat the Demon Lord. If she was that loyal, maybe she was a good companion. So he decided to give in. Poor guy, right? As if that was something bad. Without holding back, he ended up releasing, leaving Shang crushed. It felt like a mountain had fallen on her. It hurt a lot, but at the same time was comforting. After a while, she couldn't take the hero's staff anymore and asked for a break. But Han refused, saying he was just getting started. He knew deep down she was really enjoying it. After an intense night, Han woke up and realized the girl had disappeared. Still, it was a very relaxing night. Finally, he could do what he wanted without the system interfering. But then he noticed Rin and Ju standing in front of him, staring at him. Han shouted he was now a level 14 boss, and no one could force him to do anything. Lin warned that the system revealed something important during the safe period. His abilities had been sealed. Scared, Han shouted for Lin to save him. The surprise was that when she found out, she was the one who called the two. She even said he had been very naughty the night before. The girls agreed they couldn't take it anymore. Thus began a game among the three that lasted all night. The next day, at the department, Lin asked if he hadn't slept well. Han, not wanting to talk much about it, only asked why she was there. She didn't beat around the bush, and handed over an envelope with information about a new elite competition at the current level. Han didn't understand why she brought that. He thought he was already doing well enough, but Lin thought he was being optimistic and recommended he lose the competition. Reading the document, Han got confused. How the hell was that possible? 35 players from around the world were going to participate, and now he was only in 11th place. Yesterday he was 3rd. That meant many knew how to level up fast. The top 100 in the province were there. But, according to some informants, 21 disappeared mysteriously 2 days ago. For Lin, that indicated experienced players were already killing each other to level up. She said those guys' desire to win was stronger than common sense. That's why the department thought it best for Han to lose. But for him, giving up was even worse than losing. He didn't want to risk his life again since he was already in great danger. Lin warned she was going to report this to the province. The city would stay calm for a while, and Han could take a break to rest. Later, the hero asked about the game bugs. They were still being fixed. Lin suggested doing that more often. However, Han didn't have the energy to work that much. The system tried to help by offering a magic oil with special properties. He got annoyed by that. Suddenly, a man with glasses started attacking Han with a magic skill. Han asked who he was. That was Galim, a level 16 competitor and rank 9 in the province. He was surprised that Tan City's #1 had escaped. At this point, Han finally understood the guy was trying to eliminate him, and that this competitor wanted to reach level 18. Galim confirmed, saying all the city's masters had already been eliminated, and he was aiming for level 18. Han thought it was crazy, people defeating others just to gain points. He realized he wouldn't escape this fight. But what really caught his attention was the enemy's weapon, which despite being simple seemed to have insane power. Without hesitation, Galim charged with everything, swearing to send Han straight to hell. However, our hero summoned his enchanted sword and managed to block. The impact was very destructive. Something was wrong. A normal weapon shouldn't withstand that much. Even stepping back a little, Galim was impressed by the hero's sword full of thunder. Han took the lead and warned the Four Eyes he didn't know who he was dealing with. Galim activated speed mode with his weapon and started running. He created a crazy effect around our hero. He mocked, saying Han wouldn't keep up, that he would be just another stone in his mountain of victims. According to him, no one survived his purple weapon of 1,000 red deaths. But Han activated the legendary armor and blocked everything with extreme ease. Galim was shocked. Now the hero controlled the fight. He identified the real one among the illusions and tried to hit. But Galim fled quickly, confident in his own speed. Galim decided to retreat and come up with a new plan. But he made a mistake. Han, with his complete equipment, was also very fast. With a punch in the enemy's face, the hero showed he wasn't joking. He said Galim chose the wrong person to hunt. After the fight, Lin appeared and interrupted the paramedics to check the criminal's identity. But after taking so many hits, they said not even his mother would recognize his face. Lin said that even if he survived, he would be ruined for life. Nearby, Han was thoughtful and somewhat worn out too. Lin promised to reinforce security, but after this attack, Han changed his mind and decided to enter the competition. Lin asked if he was sure, since there was no turning back. Han didn't want to talk much, but said Galim had other plans besides eliminating him. He said he had already decided. Lin said she would guarantee his spot and deliver the rules. She also offered to send a police car. However, Han ended up refusing. He believed no one would be able to mess with him now. In the sky, a drone watched everything and sent the images to the crazy scientist from before. The scientist realized Han had something special. He was not a normal player. A mysterious man nearby asked if the boy still had some tricks up his sleeve. Apparently, he thought it was better to avoid Han for now to not complicate things. He remembered that both he and Galim had already been defeated. So, the plan was to try to recruit him. If he didn't accept, they would use force. With that, the man summoned one of the pieces of the Azuri dragon set, the sacred blade. Now he declared he would need the Azuri dragon's armor and gloves. Later, Lin announced that the tournament organization finally released the rules. The event would start in 3 days. This delay shows that the organizers were also worried about possible trouble. Based on the data, Ju comments that Han will have to play many matches. But since there is no information about the opponents, Ren gets frustrated. There was no way to prepare in advance. Songil suggested hacking the data to try to find the source, but Lin didn't think that was a good idea. Meanwhile, our protagonist decided to focus on the main mission. The notification required all participants to be present early the next morning. From the start of the competition, no one could dare to do anything suspicious. Even so, the tournament would be in Panho, about 4 municipalities away. Lin warns they can't let their guard down. Ju says if anyone tries to mess with Han, they will meet her sword. Both Ren and Sangil offer to go with him. Suddenly, the doorbell starts ringing. Everyone begins to get alert. Lin calls security troops on the radio to find out who is at the door. No answer. She suspects the radio might have been turned off. Han thinks fighting is much easier than making these complex plans, so he decides to go see who is at the door in person. It was a weird clown representing the 8th place of the province. He said he came in his master's name to visit Han. The girls prepare for the worst, thinking it was another attack. But the clown explains he only came to deliver a message. When asked who this master is, he replies that the number is from rank X. The identity of this X is totally mysterious, and not even his level is known. But his official ranking is 1st place. Han goes straight to the point and asks what this X wants from him. The clown answers that Mr. X admires talents like his, and wants the boy to become his apprentice to seal an alliance. Han would have to kneel before the card and become the master's most trusted right hand. Naturally, our hero asks again who he is and why he should kneel. The clown confirms. Then Han simply slams the door in his face, furious. The clown starts ringing the bell non-stop, shouting that if the boy has the courage to compete, he should have the courage to open the door. Suddenly, a bucket of cold water falls right on the clown's head. On the 2nd floor, Han watches from above and says it's good to pour water outside after washing feet. He warns that if the clown doesn't leave now, the next bucket will be boiling. The clown mutters, saying if it's a fight the hero wants, it's a fight he'll have. Lin comments that the clown managed to neutralize 2 security teams alone, and asks if Han isn't afraid of his revenge. But Han isn't sure if the clown will act, but knows that by the competition rules he can be attacked directly. Lin gets even more irritated with the arrogance of this Mr. X for sending 2 subordinates to provoke like that. Changing the subject, Han asks about Galim's condition. Miss Lin replies he is still in critical condition. Han asks her for a favor. Later, the clown, now without makeup, complains to his boss about the boy's arrogance. He asks permission to deal with it his way. The master says acting now would be foolish, since the organizing committee is watching everything. Still, the clown insists, promising not to leave any trace. The master just reminds that the competition starts in 2 days and orders him back to the lab. Young asks how the clown intends to kill the boy with so many people watching. X calmly replies he never told the clown to do that. He only told him to come back early. Young understands immediately that if something goes wrong, the master can prove he has nothing to do with the attack. X also comments that the clown's chances of winning are minimal. Young then asks why he let him go. The master explains he doesn't want Han to become his friend, so making him lose the competition seems like a good way out. Later, Lin says goodbye to the group, saying she will stay behind. She also says B will visit Han soon. The hero says he will handle it alone. The agency provided 3 cars and 5 guards for his basic security. But since this Mr. X can interfere, the girls from the other world will also follow this. This makes Lin even more worried. Without wasting time, Han gets in the car, and everyone heads to the competition. Inside the car, someone watches everything. A man tells his young master the target is moving. The young master orders them to follow discreetly. During the trip, Han finds it strange the car is leaving the route. He comments the whole route is on the highway. However, the untrustworthy driver says he knows a shortcut. Suspicious, Han asks if by any chance the driver thinks he can't see on the GPS that they are heading the wrong way. The officer starts to change his expression. With the trigger in hand, he says, "This is revenge for the bucket of water the day before." And he ends up pressing a button, making the car explode and catch fire. Even so, Han manages to escape. Obviously, right? The guy is our protagonist. But with the car destroyed, getting to the event would be kind of difficult. And worse yet, the clown shows up ready to take revenge. He activates his skill Hunter's Gaze, which freezes the enemy's equipment. A message appears to Han saying, "Status frozen. No access to equipment." Because of that, he begins to panic. He won't be able to use his armor or the gauntlet. The clown starts causing a lot of damage to Han. The hero is thrown, and the girls run to try to protect him. The clown shouts that this is payment for the cold bucket of water. And he still promises to take revenge on Han in a very slow way. The girls run to try to help our protagonist, and Han confesses that he can't summon his armor or his equipment. Desperate, he asks the system how the clown manages to freeze his equipment. Wang explains that each title has a special ability. She didn't expect anyone without experience in Mazamboras to have a power like that. Han then asks what the advantage of the Dragon Slayer title is. Unfortunately, the ability only doubled damage against dragons. The clown lays his cards on the table and says he doesn't have time for small talk. Han warns Ju to get out of the way. She dodges the attacks with extreme ease. Next to her, the other two girls also get up. They decide to protect Han with everything they have. For the first time, our protagonist feels the security of being protected by beautiful girls. The clown sees this scene and starts mocking, saying he'll take good care of these girls after eliminating Han. The provocation makes Ju extremely furious. She rushes at this little villain. Before the blow hits, the clown activates his freezing skill again. However, he ends up failing. These abilities don't work against NPCs. Before the clown realizes what he's facing, he needs to dodge very quickly. He survives but loses a piece of hair from Ju's attack. Then, a huge fireball falls from the sky and explodes on the ground. This time, the clown is hit directly. It was Ren who launched this powerful attack. She says it's the price for so much arrogance from this clown. The guy, irritated, starts calling Ren a VIW woman, and announces that now he'll use his secret weapon, the Clown King's bomb. They say a single touch of this bomb is enough to defeat everyone, leaving no trace. But when he goes to check, the trigger is no longer on his belt. Chenille didn't stay still all this time. She had taken the bomb and the trigger. The clown, furious, shouts that she should fight fair. Suddenly, Chenille returns the item to him, saying she doesn't need a useless bomb like that. The guy gets confused, thinking she's a good person, and even returned the weapon. But she warns that a real thief never leaves empty-handed. She took a little piece of the bomb, precisely the pin, and that bomb causes a big explosion in the clown's hand. The explosion surprises Han, who didn't expect it to be so easy. In front of him are the three combat-experienced warriors. Without wasting time, Ju suggests they keep moving. Han remembers that without a car, they won't arrive in time since the place is far. At that moment, Crow Judan appears. He stops the car and gets out, asking where the enemy was. Fortunately, the problem had already been solved. Even so, Han asks why he was there. Crow reminds that Han saved his life, and he had a debt to pay. Our protagonist says he has no more enemies but still needs his help for something else. So, the four get into the car and end up a bit cramped. Luckily for our hero, Han asks Crow if he's sure they will arrive on time. The guy says yes, full of confidence. He even had a runny nose because of these wives. The trip continues, and Han asks to go slower because his legs were hurting, trembling a lot. Meanwhile, the clown had survived the explosion. He promises to tell everything to the boss. He comments that Han's identity is not simple. In the province, at the elite event location, everyone gets out of the car. Crow finds it strange the place is in the mountains and not in the city. Han explains it's not stupidity. Gathering unstable people in the city would cause too much chaos. Without further delay, they head to the event. Upon arrival, our protagonist says his name and who he is representing. An employee shows where he should sign. Before anything, Han asks if his companions will wait outside. The employee shrugs, not caring about the hero's question. So, they all end up entering together. Han comments that the event seems pretty amateur. Crow, nearby, agrees. They reach a central area of the event and see a lot of people gathered. Everyone there seems like the type who doesn't fall easily. Suddenly, someone gets on stage. Everyone wonders what will happen. At the top, Director Shen welcomes the young talents. He says he's happy to see 89 participants. He says they will form a powerful team for the national competition. But a guy in the back ends up saying listening to this stuff is nonsense. The comment irritates the director. Still, the boy repeats the joke mercilessly. One of Shen's colleagues ends up shooting him. The guy is eliminated on the spot. Shen resumes speaking and warns it's better to keep quiet or they'll become statistics or t-shirt prints. Han realizes right away those guys who were monitoring were actually ability users. Shen continues and explains the tournament will have two phases. The first will be survival. The second, everyone against everyone. Specific rules will be explained before each stage. For now, everyone can go to their rooms. Han finds such a vague announcement strange. Others also think it's nonsense to have arrived so early. A guard asks if Shen talked about restrictions before leaving. Shen answers that he doesn't care about what they will do for now. He will only control things when there are about 50 participants. He says the ability is judged by aura, not by simple level. So, only after testing them will they choose who is most useful. Later, Han arrives in his room. The girls get excited about the comfort of the place. Han asks if all the rooms are like this. Kao thinks it was made especially for him. She starts taking off her sock and calls Han over. She drops some flirts, saying he must be tired from the trip. Ayin joins the conversation and tells him to relax and meanwhile prepare for what will happen inside the room. Kalta is about to crouch to watch everything, but of course no one agrees with that ridiculous idea of the kid. Afraid, Kao ends up apologizing and soon after returns to the car, wishing everyone good night. Walking down the hallway, he can't help but complain about the jealousy he was feeling toward our hero. A blonde guy hears and finds it funny to see that some think this night will be calm. That's because he and the other players were already preparing for the hunt starting now. In one of the event rooms, while a boy was sleeping, a shadow appears in front of his bed. When the boy wakes up, he is pulled, and the whole room ends up exploding. In the hero's room, Hanan was doing whatever a man would do, right? Meanwhile, Ju was praying with her hands raised. The other two were teasing Ju, saying they had already rested and were ready for action. At that moment, Han notices something strange happening and hears screams outside. Soon after, someone shouts telling everyone to evacuate, warning that a competitor set the building on fire and was defeating everyone. Ju gets angry because she was almost done with her prayer. The other girls dress quickly to leave the building. However, Han only asks for silence, leaving everyone confused. While they still try to understand, the guy outside keeps telling them to get out quickly. Losing patience, he starts shooting wildly through the door. He manages to destroy everything, getting excited thinking he will earn many points. However, he realizes he won nothing, meaning there were still people alive. Meanwhile, Han was clinging to the ceiling, hanging like a spider. The bald guy starts shooting, promising a quick death. It's funny how all bald guys are villains in this story. Apparently, the author doesn't like bald people. At that moment, he sees Han right above him, but it is too late. Our protagonist comes down hard and punches him in the face. Ju asks if this guy was an assassin sent by the organizers. Han answers no, because he had seen this guy before and knew he was just another competitor. It seemed the event organizers wanted the players to eliminate each other before the real competition began. Chenille didn't understand well, since before they had forbidden any fights. Now, out of nowhere, they were throwing everyone into a battle royale. Han explains that private fights are different from what the supervisors want to see, and now they want to watch everything up close. This was a battle royale, so the group destroys the cameras that were spying on them. The guard is shocked, but the director finds the scene interesting and even asks what was going on. An employee says that after 12 minutes of fighting, only 74 people remained. The director concludes the competitors are very smart, since only 14 were eliminated so far, even with so many traps. He says he will take a nap and asks to be woken when only 50 remain. Meanwhile, Ju asks why Han was running. He said he wasn't going to wait, and Ren wants to know if they will join the fight too. Han says no, because that's exactly what the commission wants to see. Instead, he plans to go after the manipulators to show who is in charge. In another corridor, two guys are in a ridiculous fight, pulling each other's hair. Han appears and bumps their heads together, making them pass out. A guard watches from afar and tries to understand what Han wanted to do. Since he wasn't fighting anyone and was just going down the stairs, the guard thinks he's just trying to escape. The director decides there's no reason to keep someone who doesn't obey. So he sends the guard to ambush Han and the others on the 4th floor of the East 3 stairs. While going down those stairs, Han comments relieved that they were lucky. Before continuing, something grows on the floor under him. At the same moment, he sees a girl near the collection point, and everyone is shocked. Luckily, he activates his armor in time and manages to dodge. Still, he hits the ceiling and falls to the floor, a little hurt. The girl asks if the armor was still working. Han explains that the automatic danger sensor saved him. Ju shouts, telling whoever is hiding to show up quickly. Unfortunately, the person appears and with a quick move immobilizes Ju by the neck. Han is shocked because this person defeated Ju instantly. Using his head, Han says she wasn't coherent and that if she wanted something, it was with him. But Lang ignores him and throws Ju up, intending to cut her in half. The girl panics, but Han runs at full speed and manages to block that attack. Ju falls into the arms of the other girls, San and Sav. Lang comments that the weapon with light powers was very interesting. Still, a full attack from Han's sword only made Lang retreat a little. Then Han trembles with fear, and Lang realizes that power can't be used many times. He prepares to attack again. Han also charges with everything. After many exchanged blows, Han's sword starts breaking. More hits, and the sword breaks completely, throwing him away. The girl starts losing hope, since now the boy was without a weapon. Lang doesn't waste time and rushes with full force, wanting to finish him. But at the exact moment of the blow, something shines on Han's armor. He is startled by that sudden shine. It was the true body of the golden dragon being activated. In the monitoring room, the director wakes up startled by the noise. He asks what was happening. An employee says there was something above them. The director comments that the others are inexperienced and have never seen the real world. But when he looks at the sky, he is amazed. The green dragon in the sky was only a projection of Han's incredible energy. Still, it was enough to defeat Lang. Still conscious, the guy asks what kind of powerful equipment that was. He looks at Han now with an incredible aura and asks how he could be so strong. Our hero feels what it's like to have a passive ability for the first time, and even finds the feeling very good. Shenggu and the other girl get excited with our hero's powerful and cool look. The energy he emits reaches Lord X's floor. He thinks this power comes from the armor. This only makes him want even more to steal those equipments back. The protagonist comments that almost no one uses those stairs and asks what the ambush was for. The boy explains he received orders to eliminate the hero, but didn't expect him to be harder than the other 12. Riley is surprised and asks if this Lang had already defeated 12 other competitors. He wants to know if his boss was also Lord X. Lang says he doesn't know anything, and that if the hero wants answers, he'll have to defeat him first. He advances to attack, but at the moment of the blow, Han's chest shines brightly. Another dragon is summoned. This time, Lang is defeated for good, lying on the ground, out of combat. With the victory, our protagonist levels up. The girls warn that Ju woke up, even though still weak. Han thinks he needs to end this chaos. But leaving the building would be dangerous, because the organization would send assassins after him. After thinking a bit, he has a crazy idea, and he asks the girls to go to the hole in the wall. The girl asks what he wants to do. With confidence, Han says he will end this farce. In the command room, an employee serves tea to Director Chan. He asks if Lang was really defeated. One of the employees confirms, saying the access door was now sealed, and that the boy was still in the building. This forces the director to continue with the hunter and prey game, as the director's goal, to reduce the number of competitors. The employees end up applauding, calling him a genius. But then Chan looks out the window and sees a huge explosion. He even becomes desperate. The building was compromised when someone destroyed a support wall. Minutes later, Han sees the super surveillance team arriving. Exactly as he expected, it became clear that everyone was watching, and that the night's event was planned by the event committee. The other competitors were confused, and decided they should not fight in front of the organizers. The question that no one can stop asking is, who destroyed the building's support pillar? The director shouts for the person responsible to present themselves. Han approaches without fear and says he himself did it to evacuate the non-combatants. Chan gets furious and warns that the boy just got into a very serious trouble. The competition should happen in the dorm basement, and if the building falls, the event would be cancelled. The next morning, the competitors gather at the site and stare at Han with some hostility. He tries to explain, saying he did not do it on purpose. Ju comments that Han had not even used his full power. This makes our hero embarrassed. He tells her to shut up. Without further delay, the director and his team appear to start the competition. Chan shoots an angry look at Han. He looks away, and the other competitors there don't even recognize him. In the announcement, the director says luckily the damage was not severe, so the competition would continue normally. Han feels relieved and even says he was desperate. He asks why the director made such a drama. Chan explains that the damage affected the protective magnetic field, which could cause some unexpected danger. A competitor asks if the director can give an example, but Chan says his knowledge of the world is limited, and they cannot list everything. This makes the competitors even more curious about what kind of competition this is, since it seemed very mysterious. With the situation getting out of control, Chan decides to reveal the details. Now, the first stage of the competition will be a tunnel that has existed for almost 100 years. 3 months after the first inspection, strange creatures began to appear there. The government intervened quickly and sealed the cave entrance. According to reports from inside, there are hundreds of otherworldly creatures inside. This is considered the most dangerous place in the world. The competitor's mission is to enter this tunnel, reach the deepest level, and recover purple crystals placed by robots. Only the first 8 to return with the crystals will pass to the next phase. One competitor asks how many crystals there are. The director says there are 16 in total, foreseeing that some losses might happen along the way. Han understands that, in the end, if 8 people come out alive, it will already be a victory. Ren comments that the danger doesn't come only from monsters, but also from the players themselves. A girl questions why the director pretends to have limited knowledge, and wants to know the real impact of the cave. Chan replies that the tunnel structure is abnormal, and the monsters do not come from outside, but from inside the cave. Han asks the systems about secret passages in the tunnel, and the system answers it detected holes between dimensions. Then our protagonist argues with the system about its mistake. It assures that it is already working on a fix. Ju asks what happens if those passages really exist, and Wang explains that Han's attack may have enlarged the holes, allowing the entry of even more dangerous monsters. Everyone notices they are trying to blame others, and she gets nervous, trying to apologize quickly. Still, the competition needs to start now. Before opening the entrance, Chan warns that the cave is fragile, and everyone must move carefully. Most understand this as a direct warning to the hero. The entrance opens, and the competitors are already preparing. Everyone receives a monitoring bracelet to track their vital signs. If someone disappears, they will be considered eliminated. The director wishes good luck and bids the group farewell with chills. Chan orders everyone to spread out, because the competition starts in 3 minutes. Shan comments that 3 minutes are crucial to take positions. Ju, however, feels something is wrong. She thinks the hero will face great danger right at the start. The power he showed made him a target, and since the cave is fragile, any movement can cause a collapse. So the most logical plan would be to eliminate the hero first. The tunnel door ends up closing, and an employee informs the exit is sealed. The director says life and death have been decided, and that from now on, it is every man for himself. He hopes interesting surprises will happen. Inside the cave, a competitor notices the glow on the walls, and another comments it could be some precious mineral. Only 1 minute left to the start. A guy says goodbye and hopes no one will need to kill. A bald man, of course, finds this ironic since the guy was just surviving by luck. Still, the crazy one says times have changed and wishes good luck. Before entering the portal, the competition starts, and in the blink of an eye, everyone disappears. A competitor thinks everyone was prioritizing their own safety, but he finds it strange that someone was walking right in the middle, as if nothing was happening. Very calm. That person was our hero. Without hesitation, he shouts loudly for everyone to hear. Everyone remembers what he was capable of. Taking down a 10-story building was very easy for him. An opponent would also be no problem. He warns that if anyone attacks, they will be buried along with everyone. A competitor asks if he was there to compete or to commit atrocities. No one answers, and the group has to accept that the hero will take control. Some even think he was being too arrogant. While everyone was still deciding what to do, our hero follows his path. He smells something strange and realizes the place was very dense. He needed to find the level soon. Suddenly, he finds the body of a worker. It looked like he had been attacked by a monster. He even had an injury that could indicate the cause of death. While the hero analyzed the body, another monster appears. Before being attacked, the hero dodges. The creature was huge and also very silent. It seems it would be an extremely difficult fight. The system appears and finds it strange to see an HP bar there, since it was a typical forest monster. It comments that it was a game bug. The system even agrees, saying that's right, and still asks for a maximum penetration weapon. The system accepts, in exchange for some rounds outside there. With no choice, our protagonist ends up accepting. This system was a mercenary. She pulls out an equipment card and prepares for the fight. But the new weapon is just a gardening tool that wouldn't be useful. Some kitchen utensils also came, which were also useless for combat. The system warns that the cave's magnetic field is having problems. But even so, it tries to calm our hero, saying monsters like that could be defeated with bare hands. The hero agrees, but only if it was one monster and not dozens coming through the ceiling. Though scared, he prepares to defend. Surprisingly, the frying pan from the cards had some power. Our hero started using it to fight the creature. However, one of the monsters spat an acidic liquid that destroyed the frying pan. Others did the same, and the protagonist activated the armor barrier. The system advises him to retreat from the battle, but our hero activates his blue dragon gauntlet. He didn't want to run from this battle. Meanwhile, another competitor ran happily, having avoided monsters and players. He thought if he stayed alert, nothing bad would happen to him. At that moment, the ceiling collapsed and fell on the poor guy. In the fall, our hero landed on top of that competitor. Because of that, Han even leveled up, without realizing he had crushed the guy. The system shouted for him to stop hesitating and flee quickly. Even without joking, our hero warned those monsters were not easy. At the end of the tunnel, he saw a strange blue light coming closer. But at the last second, he dodged. It was a good decision he made. The energy exploded and destroyed the monsters that were chasing him. The hero commented it was a kind of crazy move. That girl from the beginning appeared, saying she expected to find trouble there. She held a level 18 sword. Her name is Moyang. She asked if Han really wanted to destroy the mine. The hero got annoyed, telling her not to judge him because he was just trying to survive. Without further delay, Moyang attacked with her sword. Han defended and asked if she was really going to ignore his warning. But the girl didn't want to listen. She analyzed and asked if the devastating attack was a passive skill of the armor. It activated when the boy was in danger. So, she decided to end the fight. But before leaving, Han told her not to cause trouble. The hero replied he never intended to. She also warned the hero to be careful, because the deeper they go, the more dangerous the cave becomes. In that case, our protagonist, since he couldn't guarantee, would not accidentally activate his passive skill, making everyone fly. The girl asked what he was suggesting by that. Our hero said he wanted to form a partnership with her, where they could help each other. Moyang didn't look very happy about having to act as his bodyguard, but Han said she wouldn't be a bodyguard. She would only assist him in fighting monsters. Moyang refused, since she imagined our protagonist was weak. At that moment, there was a noise, and the girl asked who it was. Han explained it was a scream from a player, indicating something dangerous was ahead. The person who fell, the victim, was running and screaming for someone to appear and help. However, he was cut in half along with several others by a huge fire dragon. One of the unlucky men who ended up there also tried to use his skills to kill the monsters, but the attack only revealed his location and brought the dragon there to attack them. Faced with this, our protagonist and the girl watched hidden behind a rock. The monster then revealed itself as a blood-winged dragon, level 15. Its roar alone was enough to make both players cover their ears in pain. In that case, our hero suggested they take another path, but the girl was determined to try. He asked if she was crazy and hadn't seen the man cut in half by the dragon. However, all she said before leaving was that her decisions were none of our hero's business. As she advanced, she activated her title, Silent Night Reaper, which increased her attack speed by 50%. This surprised the hero, who didn't know she also had a title. The system explained this is normal for players at that level. While the winged dragon finished its last meal, the girl left to perform a stealth attack. However, something very wrong was about to happen. The girl was getting into big trouble. Her suspicion proved right, since the attack didn't even scratch that monster's skin. Faced with this, the creature became deeply enraged and began roaring, releasing very strong energy. This even destroyed the girl's armor. Then, she changed strategy, activating her other title called Empress's Sixth Sense. This allowed her to sense enemy attacks 1 second in advance. With this 1 second advantage, she believed she could now dodge attacks and counterattack. However, the dragon's speed ruined any plan, almost hitting Moyang. Regardless, the system was impressed that the girl could keep up with the wind dragon's speed, but the hero knew this was not enough to defeat it. Back to the girl's perspective, she realized she had underestimated a problem. Even knowing where to dodge, the speed difference made it almost impossible. While the monster prepared another attack, Moyang believed she had no chance to win. The dragon approached flying, and the girl closed her eyes, ready to die peacefully. However, before the attack hit her, our hero appeared and blocked the blow with his gauntlet. Moyang, in turn, was extremely surprised, because in front of her was a man holding the dragon's head with one hand. Then, she remembered what he said about dealing with harder enemies. While she dealt with easier enemies, Moyang hadn't taken him seriously, thinking he was weak. So, she was somewhat surprised. However, this was not entirely true. Our protagonist hit the monster easily, showing he was very powerful. That's because, for a dragon, his level was 34. This happened because our protagonist had the Dragon Slayer title. It was like his strength was doubled, meaning he was level 34. With all this performance, the girl became curious about that guy's potential. Back to the fight, the dragon began to show strange lines on its body. The system reminded that this was a sign the monster was preparing a full attack. The biggest problem now was that our hero didn't have a good weapon in hand. This made dealing with this attack very difficult. Without further delay, the dragon unleashed a powerful attack that came at high speed, throwing both far away. The wind breath was incredibly strong. The hero had to hold on to a rock with his gauntlet to avoid being thrown away. However, the danger was not over yet. The dragon took advantage of the moment to attack again. Fortunately, our hero managed to dodge, but now he begins to realize how intelligent the enemy is. He avoids direct confrontation, using his advantages. The monster uses its speed to try to confuse the boy. The system then asks if the hero will use the same move he used against the mutant woman, but he answers no. That is because it is likely the armor would not withstand an attack from such a formidable opponent. And if the passive activates, everyone will be in trouble. Meanwhile, while trying to hold on, Moyang asks what this guy is planning. But the hero knows there is only one way to solve this, so he jumps and starts attacking the wall. Moyang is confused, trying to understand why he was blindly attacking. But our protagonist keeps attacking without stopping. At this point, The dragon locates the hero. The system warns that this strategy makes no sense. However, our hero ignores it. The dragon approaches to attack, hitting the hero successfully and throwing him to the ground. Quickly, Moyang asks how the boy is. He comments, impressed by the dragon's speed. Even so, now more vulnerable, our protagonist begins to focus. Naturally, the winged dragon seemed like it would finish Han, but this time, he could not return the attack. So he takes advantage of the opening and lands a precise hit on the dragon's face. Without giving time, he delivers several more consecutive blows to the monster's body. After a quick pause, Moyang gets up, still dazed. Suddenly, something explodes in front, revealing that the wind dragon was completely defeated. Han leaves the scene saying he was exhausted. The girl takes forever to understand how the boy managed to predict the dragon's flight. He explains he did not discover where to attack, but manipulated the dragon to follow path F. With this, his attacks created a safe zone where the monster could only attack from one side. He even let himself be hit on purpose to seem vulnerable and provoke another attack. Han then asks again if they could form a team. Now, she starts seeing him with different eyes, as the true warrior, and realizes he is very good. After thinking a bit, she ends up accepting the proposal. She confirms he is very powerful and shakes his hand. Han comments that it seems the only way now is to go even deeper. Moyang worries about the monsters that could appear on the lower levels. Our protagonist says it does not matter, because if something goes wrong, they can destroy everything and escape. Then he smiles and says he will fight for their lives. The two jump together to the next floor. The dragon's body remains behind, thrown on the upper floor's ground. Later, a blonde man appears and finds the creature's remains. One of his partners comments that they arrived too late and someone had already defeated the guardian. The other group member finds the situation strange. Liu says he is impressed by the adventurer's courage. The hooded man remembers Lemang has the ability to see the past. He even suggests Lemang use that to discover who defeated the dragon. Lemang refuses, saying he will not reveal his abilities just to please others. Liu assesses the situation and says it is impossible to complete the mission alone. He proposes an alliance, thinking it would benefit both sides. With everyone pressuring Lemang, he ends up giving in and accepts the help. The hooded man gets irritated, saying that does not help everyone. Even so, Lemang reveals it was Han who defeated the dragon with a trap and a well-planned strategy. The hooded guy is shocked, thinking Han was getting too much attention. The blonde understands Han could be a threat in the future since he is very strong. He says they need to eliminate him before he gets even stronger. Lemang also says Han teamed up with another competitor. They jump together into the hole to the next level. Liu sees this as the perfect chance to form a group and take down Han, so he extends his hand, revealing his assassin skills. Lemang, although reluctant, also extends his hand and joins the group. Meanwhile, on the lower level, Han complains of hunger. Moyang asks if he is just tired. Han says he is not tired, but hungry. A strange sound echoes through the cave. Moyang sees two small demons coming. Han finds it suspicious and says they better hide before acting. The creatures start to patrol, as if searching for something. The two hide behind a cracked rock and watch. Moyang asks why they are there. Han asks if she did not notice anything strange. For her, they look like normal level 3 goblins. However, our hero asks if she has ever seen goblins doing espionage patrol. She finally understands these monsters might be in a well-organized group. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking. Moyang asks if they should investigate. Han's answer is quick, saying there is no time for that now. Her curiosity starts to increase when she notices his clothes regenerate very fast. His explanation is that it is caused by a special item. At that moment, a strange movement catches his attention. The armor activates automatically without him doing anything. Moyang's reaction is immediate, wanting to know why he activated that equipment. The answer surprises. He says it was not intentional. The dragon armor acts alone when it detects danger. Moyang's whole body goes on alert, realizing something was wrong. Uneasiness takes over and she demands to know what is happening. A firm gesture from Han asks for silence. A huge creature was passing very close, bringing maximum tension. The hiding works, and the monster leaves without noticing their presence. Han confesses he did not even know the armor was capable of doing something like that. Quite scared, she asks what the hell kind of monster that was. He also did not really know what that was, and said it was better to get closer to understand. Her reaction is pure indignation, thinking he is crazy for trying something so risky. Han emphasizes that the deeper they go, the worse it will get. Better to take advantage now to gain experience. His observation is logical. Since the monster did not see them, it must have low perception. He asks Moyang to proceed carefully, and add that if it goes bad, they just have to run. With a deep sigh, she accepts and goes along. In another part of the tunnel, inside the assassin group, Liu comments that he has a bad feeling. He says Han must be nearby and has probably already defeated the small monsters they found. The hooded man suggests that maybe the tunnel split and they are on the wrong path. Leo asks if Leo is implying that Han led them there on purpose to deal with the goblins. Before he finishes speaking, a fireball hits the blonde's face, leaving the group in shock. In front of the two remaining assassins, an armored monster appears. They realize it's not Han and begin to understand the size of the problem they got into. Without thinking much, the assassin advances, activating his snakeskin ability. With his speed, he believes defeating the monster will be easy. However, this monster aims precisely and launches a burst of energy. The boy is defeated instantly, being the second to fall before the creature. Leo decides to act and uses his magic ring to cast a healing spell. He manages to restore the assassin's state, but the situation remains terrible. One is on the ground and the other doesn't have enough power to face the monster from afar. Han watches everything with Moyang. She says if they join the fight, they will also die. Han finds it strange that such a powerful monster uses such a flashy attack and still can't defeat the enemy. Moyang asks if he means the monster just makes noise. Han explains he thinks the monster is still hiding its true strength. Then the girl changes the subject and asks where Han got the popcorn he was eating. The assassin gets up and asks the mage what they will do now. Leo replies that since there is no chance, he will support while the hooded one attacks. Then the guy activates the ring's power and sends his partner to advance. The other competitor says he's counting on him. With that, the monster fires another burst of blue energy. The mage opens portals in front of his companion, blocking the attacks. Moyang comments that their teamwork seems to be working. Our hero agrees and says this will force the monster to show more power. The assassin prepares to attack, asking if the monster will keep thinking it's strong. Before the strike, the creature places its hands on the ground and changes the terrain. Stone spikes appear and cause huge damage to the guy. The mage panics upon seeing the enemy has two types of power. Moyang also realizes they are facing a really dangerous enemy. She understands that creature was just waiting for the right moment to show everything it could do. Suddenly, Han calls the system. The girl asks what he needed. Our hero says he needed something useful from the treasure since he didn't want to depend on luck. The system answers it only found one good item, a fusion furnace, capable of combining two weapons into a stronger one. It wasn't exactly a weapon, but Han understands it could be useful. The system asks how he will use it since he doesn't have any weapon. Han asks if he can use it with any other item. Moyang confirms, but still wonders where he will get those weapons. Our hero smiles and says he has a volunteer right in front of him. In the middle of the fight, the mage panics, thinking he will be defeated at that moment. Before passing out, the assassin tells his partner to run away. Out of nowhere, Han appears and introduces himself, leaving the mage terrified. Moyang wonders what that crazy guy was doing going there. The assassin asks to be saved, saying he could be useful. Han says he will think about it if they hand over all the weapons. The hooded man warns that even handing them over, Han won't be able to use them. However, our hero replies they shouldn't worry about that. The blonde guy named Feng wakes up from the faint and accepts the deal. The mage begs for the help to come quickly. The noise attracts the monsters, making the assassin panic. Then they end up throwing some item medals to Han. 3 of them are grade A, a Demon Slayer sword, a Moonblade, and a Star Hunter axe. Han finds all of this very disappointing for not having any grade S item. Leo then throws his last card, which was an underworld sucking sword. Finally, our hero is satisfied. Meanwhile, the man screams and his partner holds firm, preparing to return to the fight. But the mage, alone in the combat zone, is defeated. Han calmly comments that the monster was already coming. With no choice, the assassin hands over the grade A items and the grade S weapon. All his belongings are given. The protagonist declares there is nothing left to worry about. This is the moment to witness a miracle. With a new surge of energy, the monster prepares a powerful active attack capable of sealing the entire cave. Han prepares for battle with his new weapon, cutting all the spikes that rose from the ground. The other crazy guy watching this regains hope. The received weapon is named Fallen God and has grade S. The hero comments he already liked it a lot. Faced with so much power, the girl wonders why this guy hadn't used this sword before. Even with a decent weapon, our protagonist knew he needed to act carefully because of the level difference. He even decides to test the sword with a precise strike. The monster freezes completely. The hunched man cheers at the battle turning in their favor. But, as expected, the monster breaks free from the ice easily. Something suggests it is now getting even harder to defeat. Surrounded by flaming energy, the monster forges a lava weapon. The hero thinks this is all way too much. Without hesitation, the enemy attacks with spear techniques, creating a lava wave. Feng shouts thinking they are doomed, and the hero asks him not to say such things so soon, as they can still win. His ice mastery is released to intercept the lava. The waves collide and a large stone blocks the monster's view. From inside it, An ice spike pierces the creature's chest. Everything happens as planned by the hero. The celebration is brief, as the monster is still standing. Its expression is now much more frightening. The heroes ask the system for information about the creature, and the answer reveals it changed attribute to metal. The game had gotten out of control, and the monster became independent, no longer needing to follow system rules. A quick charge comes straight at the hero, who defends with all his might. He knows he cannot afford to get hit. Then the system laments that a weakness still needs to be found, as they won't win without it. No game character is completely vulnerable. Back at the place where the assassin was trapped, he finds it strange that his companion's strength was fading. Leo suddenly faints, leaving the other confused. The mage admits he's feeling his strength disappearing little by little, and the guy even starts to notice the same happening to him. Our protagonist hears the conversation about their weakness and asks the system if there's any item that can help his companions. Wang quickly pulls out 3 purifying waters from the inventory. Our protagonist shouts, calling the young girl. The girl appears, asking what she needs to do. In response, he throws the purifying waters, leaving the girl confused. He then explains he discovered the monster's weakness and needs Moyang to make the 3 of them drink the vials in 20 seconds. The monster breaks free once more from the ice prison, and the girl fulfills her mission, delivering the vials to the warriors. The hooded guy asks if this is really going to work, and the hero explains the monster must be draining their strength to grow stronger. The creature changes its attributes again and attacks with fire. The hooded guy panics and wonders how they're going to defend. Then Han assures them that as long as he's there, no one will be seriously harmed. With each step, he grows increasingly tired. Moyang wonders why the potion hasn't taken effect yet, and the hero starts to suspect she refused to give it to someone. The girl admits she didn't give the potion to Leo, since he had already been defeated. She asks how she can reach him now. The hero simply tells her to hold on tight. Very confused, the girl wants to know what he's planning. Seeing a huge fireball approaching, she screams for him not to do it. With a shield armor, the hero blocks the fire. But to counterattack, he has to release Moyang. That allows the girl to reposition herself. For the first time, the monster speaks, complaining about the wounds on its noble body. The creature grabs the hero's ice sword and throws it hard against the wall. Then it charges in to finish the job, delivering continuous blows. Faced with this, the hero understands that if a blow lands, he'll be defeated, and he begs for his armor to hold up. Then the monster comments on the paladin armor, saying it underestimated him, and even believes the next attack will be impossible to block. The hero starts laughing, leaving the monster confused, and declares that it should have killed him earlier. Now, there's no chance. While they were fighting, Moyang reached the other side and completed the mission. The monster realizes all the sacrifices were destroyed. Before it can do anything, the hero charges a powerful ice attack and declares himself the creature's master. The monster suffers upon being hit, since without the sacrifices, it could no longer use its powers. Before being eliminated, it begs for help from the Demon King, but nothing changes its fate. With the battle over, Moyang's relief is clear, as she was very tense. It was an extremely difficult fight, and even so, the protagonist can't stop thinking about the monster's last words. It spoke of the possible existence of a demon god in that mine. The victory is recognized by the system, which congratulates our hero for defeating the level 20 boss, the Emperor of the Dark Fortress. A new window appears, asking the boy to choose who will receive the battle experience. Confusion takes over the hero, and Moyang explains that the other group was detected in the battle, but since they weren't registered, the final blow is what counts. That is, this meant that even forming a team afterward, it's still possible to share the experience. Hearing Han say there's still something to gain, the 3 warriors get excited. Like a true trickster, Han twists the system's explanations and says only registered teams can share the experience. Even so, the 3 don't mind and thank him for the help, acknowledging that their lives were saved. The girl comments that it's a shame they didn't meet earlier, and the guys pay tribute to the new sister-in-law, which makes her furious. Moyang thinks the 3 are very proactive and decides to form a real team. Naturally, no one refuses, and everyone gets excited about the idea. Despite the excitement, the system informs that one more person is needed to complete the group. Moyang offers to join the group too, and the guys accept, calling her sister-in-law again. She replies coldly, making it clear they should stop. Changing the subject, she asks if the hero knows the team formation rules, and he admits he doesn't. She explains that forming a team and joining a guild are different things. Guilds are free and can be dissolved, but teams have stricter rules. Within a team, no one can attack each other without suffering penalties. Also, no one can leave for less than 3 months, which Han thinks is great. There's also synergy among members, with accumulation bonuses and penalties if someone is eliminated. Our protagonist thinks that's a great way to increase combat power. Even with 4 people, Moyang says they're still weak compared to him. She asks what our hero will do when he goes deeper into the mine. He says he'll help as much as possible while leveling up. The other two say they might even lose on purpose just to ensure his victory. The hero praises their efforts in the fight against the Emperor, saying they were essential. Moyang doesn't fully agree, but the three are moved by being recognized. The girl decides it's not worth arguing with such an optimistic and stubborn ally. Han activates level distribution and everyone levels up. Mu goes straight to level 20, and the hero reaches level 22. Liu is impressed by this growth. The assassin realizes how arrogant they were being. Even so, the girl complains to the hero for distributing the levels like that. She points out he could have gone past level 25. He doesn't care much and says there are still stronger monsters ahead, so they better prepare. On the way, someone suggests they should pick a name for the group. Han replies that he'll think about it later. In another region, Zal observes the group and agrees with the rules that prevent internal betrayals. X asks how many survivors are left. The professor says there were 514 remaining and only 18 left. The closer to the bottom of the mine, the greater the losses. It was hard to imagine if anyone would make it out alive. This group was now the last hope. If they fail, some special resource will need to be used. Suddenly, someone nervously asks if something is wrong with one of the players. A competitor appears at the bottom of the mine. A portal forms and someone steps out of it. The mage starts boasting about his ability to teleport up to 1,000 meters. But soon something catches his attention, leaving the guy confused. Back with the initial group, some goblins cross their path. Full of confidence, he mocks the weak monsters that dare face them. After some time searching, they still haven't found the passage to the next floor. Moyang suggests they might need to create their own path. The situation is worrying. With so many splits, it was hard to choose which way to go. Then Liu asks what the mage is doing. Just stretching, he replies that, being the mage, he's the best suited to find the exit. Then he asks if they forgot his nickname and dashes off, declaring himself the Sonic Assassin. He even promises to come back and call the others once he finds the way. The hero is puzzled and asks what happened. Then they explain that he fell into a hole. The group proceeds to the passage where the assassin had fallen, shouting for him. Moyang notices that the barricade in the area was recently placed to hide the entrance. Luckily, time wore down the structure and it broke from the assassin's speed. The guy criticizes the sportsmanship of the other players. Even so, the blonde guy says to hurry and find their companion. The hero feels something strange and the others ask, "What was that?" With hesitation, he points out that the hole marks were made recently. It even looked like machine work, which was very strange. The guy there agrees, saying it looks like mechanical excavation, but no competitor would bring something like that. So, wow. He also finds it unlikely someone brought this kind of equipment to a place like this. In another area, Liubo, level 16, walks calmly until he's ambushed by stealth spiders. He activates his ability, turning his hand into a drill, and eliminates them all. Suddenly, the poisonous spider appears in the cave, level 18. So the guy worries about having found the floor boss too quickly. Even so, he activates his armor, turning his entire body into metal drills, and charges forward, saying that no matter the type of monster, it can always be pierced. At the same time, the blonde guy wakes up after a fall during the search for the passage. The group's cheerful voices approach, happy to have found him. But he shouts for no one to come down where he is. He didn't have time to explain why. At that moment, the ground collapses again due to loose excavation rocks. But nothing worse happens. The blonde guy tells his partner to run so they can move on. As soon as everyone regroups, the hero calls for attention, saying whoever is digging must be nearby. Mu changes focus and warns she smells a strong scent of red liquid. Upon investigation, they end up finding Liubo defeated. Some monsters talk, impressed by his strength. Even so, the level 24 priest still hasn't found the mage the Emperor ordered him to seek. Vinebone, level 22, complains about the holes Liubo left in his body, and Mushroom tells him to shut up, saying he'll heal soon. Suddenly, the priest senses someone approaching and becomes alert. Vinebone finds it strange since he doesn't feel anything. The priest starts to think maybe he's imagining things. He says he'll go back to looking for the mage, but the assassin appears behind him. In a single strike, he attacks both monsters forcefully, and Vinebone finally realizes there really was someone there. The other guy gets annoyed for not finishing them off immediately, and wastes no time returning to the fight, attacking repeatedly and destroying the monster. The blonde guy mocks the companion, saying he knew he couldn't handle it. Even so, he insists he helped with the victory and refuses to admit defeat. The hero thanks the mage for warning about the demons. Yulio explains that his soul stabilizer ring always warns when danger is near. The ring's gem starts to glow again, leaving Lu confused. He suggests the item might be defective since it didn't glow against the Emperor, but the guy insists the ring never fails. At that moment, Vinebone appears behind Liu and asks if they were the ones who defeated the Emperor. Chaos erupts before they can react, and the monster captures the three warriors with extreme speed. The hero reacts and asks Moyang to rescue the boys while he holds off the creature. With a sword attack, he freezes the monster, and Moyang uses the opening to free the warriors. He throws Liu far away, since he was more injured, and manages to catch him. The monster starts breaking the ice little by little, and the hero launches freezing spikes that pierce the enemy. The monster's arms are torn off, and his chest is full of holes. Han promises to make the monster pay tenfold for hurting his friend. Meanwhile, Lu heals Chan's wounds. The monster screams, calling Han a brat, and is hit again by ice blades, feeling intense pain. The hero says that since the creature keeps regenerating, he'll keep it trapped. Unable to take more, Vinebone screams for help from Mushroom. Han realizes he forgot about the presence of the second monster. Analyzing the aura, he senses it's an extremely dangerous enemy, but by then, it was too late to escape. The priest joins the fight and says the show is about to begin. They don't understand how the two monsters were still alive. Mushroom attacks with magic, causing intense pain to everyone. The priest warns that they've all been infected. Han appears behind him without anyone noticing. Mushroom praises the hero's quick decision to face them even without knowing the consequences. Han doesn't hesitate. He prepares an ice attack, causing a massive explosion. He quickly realizes it didn't work. With the serious explosion, the monster calls the boy birds. Mushroom observes that not even his armor barrier will protect him for long. After gathering dark energy, he launches it at Han, who manages to block with his shield. But some fragments still pass through the barrier. Han is hit and forced to retreat. Mushroom praises his reflexes but says it was useless. The spores have already started multiplying inside the boy's body. The system warns that it's best for him to retreat now, immediately. His armor wasn't suited to face a long-range poisonous enemy. However, it was already too late. The spores trapped him, and his hands began turning to stone within seconds. Our hero's body was petrified. That was parts 1 and 2 of the story. If you want to see part 3, leave a comment. I'm also leaving 2 videos I'm sure you'll enjoy. That's it for now. See you next time.